Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the May 19th Montgomery Township Board of Education meeting. The statement of open meeting and public participation pursuant to the Open Public Meeting Act, Chapter 231, PL 1975, adequate notice as defined by Section 3B of Chapter 231, PL 1975 has been made by regular mail or email on the 11th day of January 2026 from the Board of Education offices located at 1014 601 Skillman, New Jersey, to the Courier News, Montgomery Township Clerk, and the Rocky Hill Borough Clerk. The Board reserves the right to enter into executive session during all meetings of the Board of Education. It is the school board's intention to conclude this meeting no later than 9 p.m. Roll call, please.
Sure. Dr. White?
Here.
Ms. Becker? Here. Ms. Franco Herman?
Present.
Ms. Willen?
Here.
Ms. Harris?
Here.
Ms. Nunez? Here. Ms. Norgon?
Here.
Ms. Spina?
Present.
Mr. Todd's not present. Thank you.
Okay, please rise for the salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, and we'll turn it over to Lisa McLaughlin. Student report first, okay?
All right, so the month of May, or should I say July, 95 degrees, no joke. So the month of May started with senior prom at the Marigold, and SAT testing,
You should put that.
and SAT testing is May 2nd, was May 2nd. AP testing was from May 4th to the 15th, where 2 weeks of advanced placement examinations have concluded. Any parents in the crowd whose kids plan to take AP chemistry next year? Don't. I'm telling you, it's a hard exam. Some other holidays this month were Cinco de Mayo, National Nurses Day, Teacher Appreciation Day, and Mother's Day. And Spring Fling Festival of Colors was on May 16th, and this was hosted over the weekend on the MHS front lawn, and students celebrated Holi, a Hindu festival celebrating Spring Love Color. The MHS PTSA meeting was on the 18th, and upcoming events are actually NJSLA state testing. The first day was today, and that will continue throughout until the 21st. And freshman students will complete mandatory state assessments like reading, math, and writing under a special testing schedule. Lots of sleep in today. And the MHS Spring Instrumental Music Concert, the second one, is scheduled for today at 7 p.m. in the MPAC. And Academic Awards Night is tomorrow, May 20th. And Memorial Day is May 25th. I'm really excited this weekend. I don't know about you guys. I'm going to the beach. So, yeah. And the 26th is, the beginning of Eid al-Adha, correct me if I'm wrong. It's an Islamic festival of sacrifice. The PTSA Staff Appreciation Lunch will be on May 27th. And recently, with the accumulation of back-to-back AP exams, SATs, and state assessments, it's created an overwhelming academic and emotional load for students, feeling like one single score grade determines your entire future. So please check in on your kids at this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and here in Montgomery, we believe that mental health matters every month, but during May, MHS places a special emphasis on it school-wide. Each department is dedicating time to attention to a unique project aimed at supporting student well-being and promoting mental health awareness in meaningful, relevant ways. Very important during testing as well, which is, as you heard, a lot this month. MHS seniors danced the night away at senior prom earlier this month. Students were decked out in their finest and had a blast at the Roaring 20s themed black tie event. At UMS, our music ensembles are in full swing for their spring concert season. Last Friday, the jazz band Select Band 8th grade choral ensembles attended High Note Music Festival at Dorney Park. Spring sports are wrapping up the season and celebrating so many wins. This month, detectives from the New Jersey Internet Crimes Against Children, NJICAC, task force spoke with students about how to keep themselves safe online and how to get help when needed. To celebrate Mental Health Awareness Month, UMS held a care fair. We welcomed many community vendors and resources to help students learn about many ways they could take care of their own mental health. Students enjoyed an afternoon of trivia games, demonstrations, and giveaways. At LMS, the Spring Arts program has truly been shining. The spring musical, Willy Wonka Jr., was a tremendous success and filled the school with excitement, joy, and sweet sounds of music echoing through the halls. Following the play, the spring band and orchestra concerts blossomed into wonderful evenings that showcased the incredible talents and hard work of the students and staff. LMS had the pleasure of welcoming the rising 5th grade students and their families with an exciting visit to their new school home. As May quickly rushes towards a close, we are now deep in preparations for the June 12th 250th celebration, during which LMS will transform into a living Crossroads museum. LMS and the district extends their sincere thanks to the Montgomery Township and the Township's 250th Committee for the generous contribution of $2,100 and support of our partnership with SSAAM, the Stroudsburg Sourland African American Museum, and for their continued collaboration as we prepare for this meaningful community celebration. Again, that's on June 12th. We are also grateful to the PTO for their extraordinary generosity, enabling them to partner with SSAAM. Through this partnership, the students will have the opportunity to learn local stories of both heroic and ordinary individuals who made meaningful contributions to our Montgomery Township during the revolutionary times. A round of applause at Village School third graders for their incredibly upbeat musical concert and vibrant art showcase last week under the direction of the very talented music and art teachers. The third graders are outstanding performers and artists who showcase their talents and skills they have learned throughout the school year. They made their teachers and families proud and got the audience to dance and sing along with them. Third grade villagers welcomed Orchard Hill second graders to Village School for the third grade orientation on May 18th. It was a delightful experience for all. Second graders arrived curious and excited and left VES feeling confident, having been introduced to their new home. Students and staff here at Orchard have begun the 26-day trek to the end of the school year via the ABC Countdown. As an additional activity for C Day, Color Day, just today, the clubs throughout the school participated in Color a Smile program that sends pictures to nursing homes, hospitals, troops, etc., with hopes to brighten their day. As we approach June, students from different grades are moving up for a visit to following grade. Our 4-year-olds to the ECC building will visit the main campus in the upcoming days, and our second graders have just completed the move up to Village on Monday. That concludes my report, but now I would like to introduce Mrs. Fiona Borland and Mrs. Amy Monaco, who are going to give us a presentation on early literacy.
Okay, thank you. We are, as Mary just introduced us, I am Ms. Fiona Borland. I'm your Director of Curriculum Instruction and Staff Development, and I'm here to introduce Dr. Amy Monaco, who is our K-4 Supervisor of Language Arts and Social Studies. And so I just, for those of you who might not know our structure, I do the K-12 central office and sort of managing all of that, but at each of the grade bands, you have content area experts. And so we have Amy, who's a content area expert in both ELA and social studies. We also happen to have our K-4 math and science supervisor here tonight as well. There's a 5-8 counterparts of both of these ladies, and then high school supervisors. So sorry that I introduced you. Go right. Okay, so there's a lot of emphasis at a national level, which then of course means a local level on how students read, right? So, or how students learn to read. You can probably open up a newspaper of your choice and find something about literacy rates across the country. And so what we're here to do tonight is to talk very specifically about the instructional model that we use at MTSD, and we are going to be sharing some data that's pretty exciting, and I hope that it's what you need to begin to feel a level of understanding and confidence around our instructional model. So I'm just going to start with a little history of what literacy education looks like. You have to go all the way back to really 1930, post the industrial era. That's when you have schools that become compulsory, right? So we had country moving to the city, and we had the first absolute public schools. Everyone needs to go, and now we need to teach everybody how to read. And so reading instruction really starts out with what you imagine as like look and say. And you can picture maybe from an old TV show where the words were listed on the board and the teacher read with the students down each word, and they were expected to be able to read sight words. And you know, the Savage and Jane books were very common in that era, and that is how students learned to read. Around the 1960s and 70s was really when we began to say, oh, phonics, wait, letters have sounds, and we actually need some explicit instruction around that. But the paradigm also shifted to controlled texts and basal programs, and that might be what many of us in this room right now grew up learning how to read with. And the problem with that was that when you think about how literature exists in the real world, when I go into a library to pick a book, or when I go into a bookstore, it doesn't exist with only the letters that I've learned so far, or the words that I know so far. And that's what a controlled text is. A controlled text is limited to the sounds and words that I know in first grade, or second grade, or third grade. And so then in the 80s and in the 90s, we have a pendulum swing all the way in the other direction. And that's where education always finds itself in trouble, whenever we swing the pendulum too far. And that was whole language. And so, what might actually be the reading wars. And so we moved away from explicit phonics, sometimes to the detriment of forgetting that letters had sounds, and we really went back into whole word reading and meaning-based whole language. So somewhere around the 2000s was really, my college education level was, at this time, I'm a little bit before that, is balanced literacy. And so balanced literacy is absolutely what you expect it to be. It was a movement to get the pendulum back to the middle. You absolutely need to understand phonics and phonemic awareness and morphology and vocabulary to learn to read. But if the end goal isn't meaning making and to become a reader, then we're doing something wrong as well. And so what we have kind of found ourselves in right now is a little bit of a movement back to the reading wars, but we're hopeful that we're here tonight to try to bring that to a place of understanding and to talk about how Montgomery is really a responsive model. We're able to look at the students' needs in our district, look at the students' needs in our classrooms, and meet them where they are. Just a little bit of the legislation on the side. When each time a new legislation comes out in education, new testing occurs. So if you think about the vast difference between the tests that, some of you in this room may have taken in Iowa, then when we were teachers, we might have given the Terra Nova, and it was a radically different test, and then all of a sudden we got to the early warning tests, and from there. So each time there's a new legislation, there's new testing, and testing does drive pedagogy in the classroom. And so hopefully right now we are at a place where we really think the standards are great, and we are in an interesting era of testing that we'll just put aside till next fall right now. Okay, with that, I am going to give the remote to Dr. Monaco and let her really talk about the science of how kids learn to read.
Hello, and good evening, everyone. As I said, my name is Amy Monaco. I am the supervisor of Language Arts and Social Studies, K-4, and this is my 13th, that's why I looked at you, 13th year in this position. So, just as Fiona shared some of the history and a timeline of literacy instruction in our country, it's just as equally important to understand a little bit about the key reading research that has really driven a lot of the instructional and curricular decisions that have really happened over the last, however many years we just talked about. So one was the simple view of reading. So this was developed by Gao and Tumner, 1986, and essentially it posited that reading comprehension, or proficient reading, is made up of decoding or word recognition and language comprehension, or oral language skills. And you have to have both of those pieces to have an effective or proficient reader. That research holds up. That is still true. But then, in 2001, Hollis Scarborough created a graphic for this idea in the simple view of reading. And he sort of expanded that word recognition is comprised of decoding, it's comprised of phonological awareness, so an awareness that words have sounds either at the syllable level or the individual phoneme level, as well as recognizing words on sight. So you've got that strand of the rope. Then, underneath, language comprehension is comprised of vocabulary knowledge, background knowledge, language structures, literacy knowledge, and verbal reasoning. So you have to have all of those strands sort of woven together to have a skilled reader. In 2021, Duke and Cartwright sort of took that work to the next step. And this is actually one of my favorite research papers, which I recognize as a nerdy statement. But it's sort of a meta-analysis of all of the reading research that has been out there up until 2021. And what Duke and Cartwright have said is yes to the simple view of reading, yes to Scarborough's reading rope, and there are some elements of proficient reading that cannot be found in either of those models. Specifically, the first in the green circle that you'll see, active self-regulation. So students need to be motivated and engaged. They need to be able to utilize executive function skills as they read, and they need to be able to use strategies. I will tell you on a personal note that this is the area of the active view of reading that I studied for my dissertation, and I was actually able to, thanks to the board's approval of my research, able to use VES students in my research, and my goal was to kind of zero in on motivation and engagement and get students who have been struggling for 1 or more years hooked on a book series that they could be excited about, they could be engaged with, and every single one of those students in my study made statistically significant growth over the course of the study. So that alone, of course there's other amazing research out there, tells you that motivation engagement really plays a significant role. The other element that I really like about this model is in purple, in the middle there, you'll see bridging processes. Now they are purposefully overlapping with word recognition and language comprehension. And that tells us that these are not isolated, separate elements of reading. It is not decoding over here and language comprehension over here, but there has to be an overlap between the two. Some of those overlapping processes are print concepts, reading fluency, vocabulary knowledge, and my personal favorite, which is graphophonological semantic cognitive flexibility. And that is not just my favorite because it is fun to say. It is my favorite because it tells us that readers need to be cognitively flexible. That is particularly important when we're talking about the English language and the words wind and wind are spelled exactly the same way. So you have to be cognitively flexible to say, well, what's going on in this passage or this story? What is the sentence level comprehension that you need to have? I need to try a short vowel or a long vowel and find the word that makes sense. The other really interesting thing, and then I promise I will stop talking about this model, is the effect sizes that you can see in the boxes right next to each of those components in the active view of reading. So if you can recall from your undergrad or graduate level coursework, an effect size of 1.0 is the highest one, right? That's the highest effect size that you can have. So we have active self-regulation at an effect size of 0.46. We have word recognition at an effect size of 0.44. Language comprehension at an effect size of 0.62, and bridging processes at a whopping effect size of 0.70, which is by far the most statistically significant effect size. So that tells us that decoding and language comprehension cannot occur separately. You need to have both, and they need to be interwoven. Okay, so another area that I wanted to mention is the New Jersey Tiered Systems of Support for Early Reading. This was developed with initial cohorts back in 2017 and had a full rollout or sort of upgrade in 2023. And it has two components. So the first being effective instruction. And this is actually based on the National Reading Panel Report, which I'll show you the image for that in just a moment, as well as essential assessments, which include universal screeners includes progress monitoring as well as diagnostic assessments. Okay, so as I mentioned, New Jersey Tiered Systems of Support for Early Reading is based on, when they're talking about effective instruction, they are basing that on the 5 pillars of early literacy, which were established by the National Reading Panel report in 2000. It's a pretty well-known report. It is still very often cited in legislation. It's often cited by NJDOE, and it tells us that the 5 most essential elements of early literacy instruction are phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, comprehension. Interestingly enough, they left out a big one, writing. And then the second element of the NJTSS early reading are essential assessments. So you might also be familiar with the fact that New Jersey passed a universal screener law in 2024. So this was our official first rollout of the amount of reporting, thanks to Fiona for the amount of reporting that has to be done to the states now. But as we often are in Montgomery, we were ahead of the curve, and we have had universal screening in kindergarten and first grade for all students in all subtests since 2021. And we also implemented STAR through Renaissance, which is a universal screener that we did need to add in one additional assessment to be compliant for the law since 2022, and that's actually in grades 2 through 10. So we were a little bit ahead of the game there. Okay, so now I'm going to turn it back over to Fiona, and we're going to talk a little bit about the standards and Montgomery. So thank you for indulging me in a little bit of the research and information that kind of gives you some context.
At this point, we're going to do a lot of just handing back and forth, so wish us well. Okay, so in 2023, the New Jersey Student Learning Standards in English Language Arts got a reboot. And what I want to point out here is that you have 2, of course we have speaking and listening, but I want you to pay attention to your reading and language, and then at the bottom, as we said, writing is also there. But in our reading standards is where you're going to find the skills necessary to comprehend and work with and make meaning of a literary text or an informational text. Within the language standards is where you're going to find reading foundational skills and writing foundational skills. Now, I'm the director of curriculum, and so I love curriculum and I love standards. I really do. If she gets to be nerdy and have a favorite paper, I love the ELA standards, and I talk about them all the time as how they spiral up, and you can take the exact same standard and look at it over multiple grades, and its complexity increases as you go. It's a little different than the math standards, where sometimes the math standards actually drop off, right? You're supposed to have mastery by 2nd grade, but the ELA wants to keep going. The reading foundational skills and the writing foundational skills, we see those in the 5th grade, and then we get into just more reading and writing. So I want to point out the difference here, because you have to include both, and we're going to talk about a lot of our curriculum materials and how we do this in our elementary schools. So under the foundational skills, that's where you're going to see things like phonological awareness, that students actually have to be able to hear syllables and be able to discreetly identify the sounds in those syllables. And one of the tests you might see the little kids taking is when they repeat words back and they have to clap them out. So the ability for them to say blue bird is that they've divided that word into the sounds that it makes. And that's part of early reading. You've also got phonics and word analysis. That's where I just went to, right? Are decoding the 2-syllable words by speaking them and by breaking them down. We hop over to those reading standards, and now they're about meaning making, right? So now it's about key details. If you are asked questions, can you talk about the literary text? You talk about what happened to characters in the story. You talk about where the story took place and how where the story took place influenced how you felt about reading it. Central message, text features, right? So can I talk about the difference between a story and an informational book and how they're written and how they're devised? So these are, to back up just for a second, that's the difference between the green standards and the yellow standards, right? Our reading standards and our language standards.
So this is actually a screenshot directly from our 2nd grade curriculum, our reading curriculum. It's Unit 3, which is all about characters. And I just wanted to show you a quick snapshot of what that looks like. So when we did a lot of our curricular revamping to align with the 2023 standards, we wanted to be really intentional that every lesson, every learning intention is aligned to a particular standard and has a specific criteria for success. So this is not only a new format that we use when writing our updated curricular units, but it's really a very intentional way of ensuring that the learning intentions are aligned to the standards, and then conversely, we don't have any learning intentions that are not standards aligned. So we really wanted our curriculum writers to kind of go through that exercise to make sure that we were just really being purposeful about the lessons that we were maintaining in the units.
Yeah, I just think the word that Amy just used was maintaining. So in this revision was when the state got very specific about those foundational skills, and you can't just keep adding, you have to add and subtract, and you still have the same number of minutes in an instructional day. And so as we went through the resource that we use for most of our reading standards, there was a lot of parsing out and evaluating, is this directly connected to a standard? If not, then we remove it from the curriculum, and that begins to leave room for more word work and more foundational skills to be built in, which is what was necessary as we moved into the 2023 standards.
Okay, so I just wanted to return to this graphic on the pillars of early literacy. So just as a brief reminder, these pillars were determined by the National Reading Panel Report in 2000, and they are still referenced currently by the NJTSS for early reading as being sort of the critical elements of a reading curriculum and the areas that we really want to make sure that we are purposely focusing on. So just to give you a sense of the resources that we utilize here in Montgomery to meet each of these pillars and as well as each of these standards, of course, in the grade level. So when you look at the three pillars on the left, phonemic awareness, phonics, and fluency, the resources to the left side are those that are our core curricular resources that we utilize to meet these pillars. So in kindergarten, that is lively letters, which I'm going to talk a little bit more about in a moment, as well as Heggerty phonemic awareness. In first grade, as well as the second and third grade, we adopted a program by a company called Really Great Reading. The first grade version of it is called Blast. The second and third grade version of it is called HD Word, and I'm going to talk more about that in a moment as well. And then we also have some additional programs that we utilize for intervention, specifically intervention on phonemic awareness, phonics, and fluency. Vocabulary, an oft forgotten pillar at times, is one that we make sure, there's explicit vocabulary instruction and implicit vocabulary instruction. We want to hit both. So our implicit vocabulary instruction most naturally occurs through read aloud, it occurs through conversation, but we also want to be explicitly teaching words. And that program is called Word Love, and it spans from kindergarten through fourth grade. It is heavily research-based, and we were fortunate enough to have the author of the program, and thanks to you all for approving that consultant. His name is Mike Oakes, and he was able to come to both Village and Orchard Hill to provide background on the research of best practices in vocabulary instruction, as well as curricular resources and instructional resources. And then finally, the pillar on the far right, comprehension, sort of the goal of it all. We use the units of study in reading, as well as digital platforms such as Freckle, Mayan, and Raz Kids, in first grade Raz Kids. Of course, read alouds at every grade level, and then we have a growing toolbox of small group resources that we've really been trying to build over the past few years, and I just have a few of those listed as well. That toolbox is ever growing, and our teachers have really been taking the time to be experts at small group instruction. It's certainly we all learn to teach whole class, and over time realize that we also need to really be purposefully instructing students in small groups and individually to meet them where they are as learners. Okay, so lively letters is what we utilize in kindergarten. And it is a research-based, multi-sensory reading program that was actually developed by a speech and language pathologist. And it focuses on not only letters and characters for each of those letters, as well as stories for each of those letters. It also shows students what to do with their mouth while making those letter sounds, and we call those articulatory gestures. So we want students to know that the way your lips move or your tongue moves when they're making a certain letter sound. It is incredibly developmentally appropriate. We first implemented it in 23-24, which was not coincidentally the same year that we had full day kindergarten. So we are in year 3 of our implementation, and I will show you sort of how that kind of plays out in the data a little bit further on. And then I also just want to talk a little bit about BLAST and HD Word by Really Great Reading. So as I mentioned, BLAST is the first grade version of that program. HD Word spans across grades 2 and 3. These programs explicitly teach phonemic awareness, I'm reading for you, but it's important, phonics concepts and word attack skills. They also focus on reading accurately and fluently, which translates directly to better comprehension. The lessons are research-based, multisensory, and have been found to be highly effective via independent research studies. So just to give you a sense of what that implementation has looked like, last year was our first year of initial implementation. We had a committee comprised of teachers at both Orchard Hill and Village. We went through the ACI committee to present when we had our final product selected. So we are now in year 2 of our implementation, and we were able to sort of shift a little bit in terms of which grade levels we're teaching which units. And by year 3, and this was planned from the beginning of the implementation, we will have grades 2 and 3 teaching all of the units in HD Word so that we can phase it out in grade 4 and shift to a focus primarily on vocabulary and morphology, which is appropriate by the time you get to grade 4 and they've learned the phonics skills that are most important for decoding and encoding. Okay, so what does this look like across a school day? So certainly that varies from grade level to grade level. So I just gave you an example of a sample first grade schedule and a sample grade 3 schedule. What's important to note is that in kindergarten and in first grade, we're spending a lot more of the day on foundational and emergent literacy skills. And then by the time we get to third grade, we're focusing more on that higher level comprehension work, inferencing, character work, determining a theme, and we're able to have students in book clubs and working more independently by the time they get to Village.
Oh, please do. So when you are looking at the reading workshop, you're going to see, I just want to make sure that we see that we have the word work section in both grade levels, but when you're looking at the reading workshop time in grades 1 and K and even into grade 2, the independent time that we're going to talk about, the practicing time, we are talking about applying and practicing our phonics. We're talking about reading centers that will include decodable text as well as authentic text. We have small group lessons going on phonics and foundational skills, and that's the much heavier emphasis that happens in those early grades. So even though we're seeing it within what we're going to talk about on the next slide, which is the workshop model, it is really heavily focused on the skills that foundational readers need to grow. And I just want to take a little bit of a moment to clarify that the workshop model does not belong to one researcher or one practice, right? So we actually have math workshop in place, and there are many published books on what does math workshop look like. So workshop is nothing more than an instructional model. It says that at the beginning of a time period, we're going to do a direct instruction, teach a new skill, really based on I'm going to model it, we're going to do it together, you're going to show me. We've got lots of communicators and markers and tiles that are all part of those lessons on the rug. We often refer to that time as time on the rug, right? That's where the little they start. The next part of the workshop is students go out and practice, right? They apply. It might be in a book club in the older grades, it might be at a center in the younger grades. And this is when the teacher is facilitating. We talk about not teacher standing in front of the room, but teacher working with students. This is what you see in the 20 to 30 minutes, that middle workshop time. And then we bring students together because students remember what they learned at the beginning of a class and at the end of a class. And so we bring them together to connect back to the teaching point, to have kids share out what success they had, and to have the teacher kind of say, what's next, where are we going? That's just an We also just want to talk a little bit about the skill of transfer. And so we have embedded on every single resource that you see on the left-hand side are resources that are in our classrooms. So when you are learning letter sound, when you are learning how to rhyme, when you are learning how to divide up a word and clap out syllables, all of those isolated skills, even when you're learning to get through a decodable text, are so that someday you can go pick up a book that motivates you and interests you and you want to read so that you can become a reader. That's what we refer to as transfer. They start with skills and I need to apply them to where they exist in the real world. Again, that's something that we see all over the place in every content area. When you're learning, I keep looking at area and thinking, like, when I'm learning math, I might be doing a whole lesson on angles, and then I might have my students build a golf course or a mini golf course to really practice those things. That's the application and the transfer. In reading, it's can I read a book that I love? Okay, so I'm going to spend a little time. Oh, you have been so sorry.
I did. Sometimes. So as Fiona was saying, each of those resources on the left, the top left comes from Lively Letters. Those are heart words, which we utilize across grades K through 3. The bottom two photos are decodable text that we have in our classrooms. And then the top is a tile board that comes from HD Word, where students use the color tiles as well as the letters to stretch out the sounds in a word, put a color tile for every sound, and then match the corresponding letter. But what's really, to me, most impactful is that the whole goal of phonics instruction is eventually to not need it. The goal of reading is a meaning-making activity. You have to be able to make meaning from the text that you read. And Fiona and I were talking earlier about a study that just came out recently from England, and they actually switched about 10 to 15 years sort of before the term science of reading was popularized in the United States to a synthetic phonics approach, and it was phonics heavy. It is phonics heavy. And what they saw over time, it's been about 20-ish years at this point, is an increase in phonics skills, of course, pretty steady growth in terms of comprehension, really not any significant gains, but a steady decline in students wanting to read, loving to read, choosing to read. And that's the type of thing that, that we really want to be thoughtful about when we're designing curriculum. Absolutely yes to explicit systematic phonics instruction, absolutely decodable texts, and heart words, and all of the things that students need to be able to be proficient at decoding and encoding. And yet, the goal of reading is meaning making. And we never want to lose sight of that. So I think it's an interesting study, and it's definitely kind of giving us a window into a country that sort of made changes, massive changes, about 20 years ago, and sort of where they are now.
Okay, so we want to take a little time to look at our current data, right? And so this is not the data that I come to you in November with. This is some data about our early literacy students and our little kids, our K-3. Oh, I need to give you the first one, because you're much better at kindergarten data.
So in kindergarten, we used an assessment called Early Learn. So I just wanted to share with you, we are actually assessing students for the end of year data this week. It's ongoing currently. So I can only share with you our beginning of year and our middle of year data. But you'll see the percentages. Well, first you'll see that the chart is broken up into subtests that assess phonemic awareness, subtests that assess phonics, and subtests that assess oral language. So then you'll see the percentages for the beginning and middle of the year. Those percentages reflect the number of students who scored above the 40th percentile for each of the subtests. And that's considered on benchmark. That's the norming for this assessment. So you'll see each of the subtests, the increases that we have seen. I'm particularly excited about the fact that 100% of our kindergarten students currently are above the 40th percentile for letters and sounds. And I can assure you that that was not the case before full day kindergarten. So that's really exciting to see. We also see in the third subtest over in phonics, that non-word reading, those are regularly spelled nonsense words. So a word like, I can never think of one when I'm trying to fit. There we go, fit. A word like FIP because you wouldn't assume a student had seen it before somewhere and they're just remembering it. They have to apply their decoding skills to be able to read it. 81% of our kindergarten students can currently do that, which is really fantastic. The outlier percentage for me, or the outlier score, is expressive vocabulary. 26% of our students were above the 40th percentile in the beginning of the year, and only 42% are above the 40th percentile currently. So that to me is the standout worrisome piece of data up there. And thankfully, like I mentioned earlier, we were able to bring in a vocabulary expert just this past March on the Professional Development Day. It had rave reviews from the teachers, and they're really excited to be a bit more explicit in terms of the vocabulary instruction, because we're just not seeing, what we would like to see in terms of that subtest. Oh, sorry. Okay. So in first, second, and third grade, we move into the world of Renaissance. And there's going to be two different types of data that I show you right now. The first is a comprehensive score. And the comprehensive score in first grade includes word knowledge skills, comprehension strategies, and constructing meaning. I want you to notice a couple things on this slide. At the beginning of the year, the scale score to be at or above the benchmark is at 743. At the beginning of the year, 80% of our students are on benchmark. That does not mean 80% of our students have mastered the first grade curriculum. It means that 80% of our students are exactly where they are supposed to be at the beginning of first grade. And we would expect that. That's what why we all live here and come to school here. In the winter grades, because we're still finishing up our spring. Oh no, this was spring. Yep, sorry, there's a couple ones that are winter and different ones that are spring. I need you to notice that two different things changed. So yes, our overall percentage is now 83% of our students are on benchmark, but the important thing does not mean that 3% of our students are now where there's 3% more of our students are where they're supposed to be, but that the scale score, the at or above benchmark, moved as well, right? So in order to be at or above benchmark, you now need to score an 827 in order to be above that 40%. In addition to the comprehensive skill, we use CBMs, which are content-based measuring tools. These are tools that isolate skills. They are given within 1 minute. They are done live between the teacher and the child, and they are done repeatedly throughout the school year so that you can see growth. Now, I can't see up there, so I wrote my little cheat sheet. Just let me get to it. Okay. So in the first one, passage oral reading is an assessment where students are given, and they're given the same passage throughout the different passages, same level. Throughout the, my Amy's there. We give them a passage to read, and the teacher is scoring the number of things that they get correct, and they're tallying it up. At the beginning of the year, we had 74% of our students were able to be at benchmark, and now at the end of, this is actually the winter score. Correct. This is the winter score, and they moved into 77%. So again, both things are true. We have moved the benchmark in how many things correct they have to get has gone up, but so has the number of students who are reaching that benchmark. So that's what we want to see in passage oral reading. And just like the nonsense words in Early Bird, we use nonsense words in the older grades to also just test and isolate the phonics skills that students have. As you see, pronouncing the three-letter, the CBC words that are not real words. And we have 61% of our first graders started the year on benchmark, and 73% of them are at benchmark by the winter assessment. So we see both increasing. There are other skills and tests, but believe it or not, I know you probably don't believe it right now, we actually scaled back our data to make this shorter. So I know you don't really believe me right now. Going a little faster through these slides, in the fall, our second graders, we had 71% of our second graders at or above benchmark with a score of 885 or above. In the spring, we now have 74% of our students. This has moved into STAR reading, and they are proficient at benchmark. Additionally, they also take CBMs. So we have passage oral reading, started the year with 77% of our students being able to be at benchmark, and increasing to 79% of our students at benchmark. That is a crazy statistic. That is really amazing. So kudos to the Orchard Hill teachers and the village teachers that continue the work, but that's just absolutely astounding.
And that also moves on to our expressive nonsense words, starting the year with 76% of our students on benchmark and moving up to 78% of our students on benchmark. Again, the benchmark continuing to get more complex as the year goes on.
Fiona, do you mind? I have one question. What's the blue and red one?
So the blue and red is, the blue is on watch and the red is at risk. You can actually, on these slides, you're going to be able, these slides just give you the comprehensive score. You can see the percentages are listed there. And that actually does let you see where the movement was. So often there's usually like a percent that goes up in the red and a percent that goes up in the blue, so you can see the movement between the on watch and the proficient and the...
Kids who are doing English as a second language factor into this?
Yes,
Is that
everybody is.
part of-
Everybody. This is universal data. Special education, ML, all of our students. Okay, so in third grade, we started the year with 66% of our students with a comprehensive reading score of being on grade level, at benchmark, not on grade level, at benchmark. And then at this moment, we have 73% of our students on benchmark. So really an amazing amount of growth happening in our third grade overall reading, comprehensive skills. And then we also see a pretty big jump. They do not do nonsense words in third grade. We've moved past that. And so in the passage oral reading though, which is still decoding and fluency and comprehension, because again, it's a timed test with words at their appropriate level. We went from 72% of our students at benchmark in the fall. This is the winter data. So the winter data is 79. So we still don't have the spring data finished yet. So I expect it to continue to grow. I mean, that is the hope. Just kind of wrapping up. Now we actually are wrapping up, and I'm sure I'll take some questions at the moment. But another part of the work that the state did in the 2023 relaunch was really talk about what does high quality instructional materials look like, right? And they really focused on that quote from the DOE, and it talks about, coherent, well-structured literacy programs, that we need to make sure that teachers have what they need and that they're actually able to focus on the students' needs. Our implementation of data over the last 4 years has been exponential to hear conversations that teachers are talking about with what data they need to pull in order to know how to provide interventions in the classroom or what their small group lessons can be. And so both of those parts, with explicit instruction and great data. So the bullet points given to us by the state of New Jersey are explicit systematic phonics, decodable texts, phonemic awareness, fluency, comprehension, reading, writing, speaking, listening, culturally and linguistically inclusive content, and embedded formative assessments. In Montgomery Township School District, this is also our model, and we hope that tonight we're able to come and share with you. There is an incredible amount of explicit systematic phonics instruction. We've added so many things over the course of the implementation of the 2023 standards to our program. Teacher teams have been used, the experts of our supervisors and our admin team have been used to make sure that we have enhanced our curriculum program without having to scrap it all. So there were districts that have made choices to scrap everything and start from a beginning in a zero place. That is a very hard thing to do to teachers. Our data did not support doing that. Our data still shows that our students are learning to read, and both in the explicit skills and the comprehension skills. And so instead, the choices that we've made over the course of the last 3 years have been to make sure that we are hitting all of the elements described by the DOE, described by the standards, and in by the models of best practice in literacy that are out there today. So now we are finally done. Sorry about that.
Thank you for the very, very comprehensive presentation. Do board members have questions?
So I have to thank you so much for the comprehensive report. It's really good to see the whole instruction is moving to evidence-based practice. I did participate in one of the NJ DOE training session, and I know I shared some of the slides with you. So one of the things is, I remember during the presentation, the training, some other school district did mention that too, is like they see similar results that you just showed. The data shows we're doing good, and somehow it just, and it did not reflect when they have the state assessment. They struggled about that. And another school district, I believe it's the Greenbrook, and they did share that and say, oh, sometimes it's about, I also heard what you talk about, what we teach here and how you teach and how often you teach. They talk about a lot of times we have the resource already, and it's just about integrate those sources to make it happen. Today I want to focus a little bit more about what we teach, because this really related to what we board approving every year, and I believe we shared a lot of concerns about unit study. It's really good to see, like we have Haggerty, all those things, and also during the October training session when I talked to the NJDOE that that POC that. Natalie, yes, I did ask her about that too, and she did say from NJTS's ER project, they have a scoring rubric provided for school district, and they encourage every school district to use that to score the curriculum they use. Absolutely. Yeah, so I know we talked about we use Haggerty and BLAST, and then I did ask them a question, so how about TC unit of study? So their word literally say it's like, they're not aligned with science teaching. So, and I heard many school districts who participated in that NJTS's ER project over the past 10 years, they all implement that one. The Greenbrook school district say they switched to UFly. I saw UFly listed as one of our intervention curriculum, and I heard from East Brunswick using CKLA. So, many school districts start to de-implement that, and I wonder, what's the benefit for us continue using TC unit of study, since so many curriculum are so aligned with science reading, and also NJDOE, they do not recommend, and read between the conversations. They don't.
You don't have to read between, right? No, it's very clear. So, no, thank you for that question, because I think that's the point of clarification that we really want to make sure that everyone walks away with. If you had looked at our curriculum documents 7 years ago, what you would have seen was a comprehensive program reliance on units of study. And so when the DOE says that they do not recommend that the units of study are used, they are speaking directly to the foundational reading skills. So when the slide that we talked about, I'm gonna go all the way back and see if I can do it. But when we are looking at this model, when we went through our units of study, they are not our only curriculum that we rely on. When we were only relying on the units of study as our primary and mostly singular source as curricular resource, we would not have passed the rubric, the high quality instructional material rubric. What we have chosen to do, which is absolutely no different than purchasing a CKLA or an arts and letters, is that we have built all of the pieces that are required by the high quality material rubric into the curricular resources that we provide for the teachers. And so, yes, absolutely, we parsed out and matched the lessons that we kept that are related to units of study that are directly correlated to the reading skills that match a reading standard. Then we removed a lot. We also replaced units of study in phonics, and we removed that from the curriculum. And that was when we replaced it with lively letters, really great reading, broad integrity. And so regardless of whether it's pieces of best practice that our teachers have selected and that our experts in administration have selected, or it's one comprehensive program, you still need to meet all of the criteria. And we absolutely meet all of the criteria.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I understand you were trying to say what you're trying to say, meet all the criteria. And yeah, Amy, you're trying to weigh in something?
Yeah, I just wanted to know, I absolutely hear your question and your concern, and I think it's a completely valid one. I do know that there are some districts who have gone to a program like CKLA, like Arts and Letters, and I just wanted to share, because certainly these are programs that I've looked into, some of my concerns about the potential pitfalls of those types of programs. So one being, of course, the loss of teacher autonomy and a really heavily scripted program. I mean, like you're on this page of this teacher's edition on this day type of scripted program. There are concerns about the developmental inappropriateness about some of the content. For example, second graders are learning about the War of 1812 in an effort to increase their content knowledge. Of course, there is research to support teaching into background knowledge and teaching into content, but we want to think about what's developmentally appropriate, and then we also want to think a lot about student engagement. These are the types of lessons where students are sitting whole class for 45 to 60 minutes in first and second grade, hearing a lot about content. Squeezing out student choice and whole books. Students are not reading independently when you're using a program like CKLA and Arts and Letters. There is no student choice when it comes to books. They're reading a lot of passages on content. I've actually spoken to some of the teachers in Princeton and in West Windsor. One who was almost in tears telling me how your kids can't shop from the classroom library anymore. They're not allowed to. They're not able to select any independent reading books. There's very, very limited differentiation for special education students and multilingual learners. There are concerns that have been brought up about what knowledge we are teaching. You know, whose history is it? Whose knowledge is it? And some concerns about bias that have been brought up and are pretty well documented. And then you want to think about, like Fiona was saying, just throwing everything out that we have built over the past, at least I can speak for 13 years, that we have provided professional development to our teachers on. We really trusted our teachers as a resource. We want to build up their own knowledge on how they can teach effectively, rather than kind of scrapping everything and selecting a program that oftentimes you have a shift in the teacher's ability to effectively implement, and potentially about 3 to 5 years before you're seeing a return on your investment. And it's fiscally not necessarily the most responsible thing to do as well. So we absolutely look closely at those rubrics. We absolutely look at the guidance that NJDOE is putting out and try to make really intentional and thoughtful choices and decisions about how we are moving forward, rather than adopting a big box type program.
But those changes are radical. Like the classrooms that existed 8 years ago are very, very different than the classes that exist today in 2026. So there is an enormous change of the materials that we have adopted, implemented, and even the pedagogy that we have provided professional development on. The only other thing that I want to be really specific about, because I think this applies to many conversations that we often have. When we see things in the news and on the newspapers and on the headlines and we listen to podcasts, they are always, most of the time, referring to national movements. But we in New Jersey, one of the things that we have, and one of the things that all of you get to do, is local control. And so the data that Montgomery students have does not look like the data that every student in every other township, even in New Jersey, has, and definitely not across the country. And that's why you really want to make strategic and purposeful decisions that do meet the criteria of the high quality instructional material. We want to stay aligned with what the state's asking us to do. We use I actually think you're referring to the NJTSS-ER webinar series, and we use many of those in our teacher training on dyslexia, and in our Flex PD that our teachers complete. We think these are incredible resources. And I'm going to go out on the ledge here, go back to look at Mr. Papa. Natalie Franzi is an alumni of Montgomery Township. Yes, okay, so we claim her as our own. We make a lot of phone calls over to Natalie, and she needs to be our bestie.
More questions? I have just one question. When I see the percentages going down from kindergarten, first grade to third grade, I'm sure the curriculum is much difficult compared to that. But do you provide additional resources for that teacher? Additional person in the classroom to work with kids, or how does that teacher bring it up without, does she get extra help?
One nuance to that is that it's 2 different assessments, right? So you've got the early word assessment, it is assessing the same skills, and then we move over to a different assessment. So the comprehensive scale score is different than the CBM scores. The CBM scores are looking for that 40% that early bird is, and it's the 40% national, 40 percentile cut score that the state is looking for when we upload our K-3 data in the windows that they ask for. The comprehensive scaled score is a different tool altogether. So you have just a very different, you can't do apples and oranges. Although we have a really robust multi-tiered system of support, and so yes, we are very lucky to have staffing in all of our buildings that provide intervention services to any student who is not meeting benchmark. Particularly our students who may not be receiving other services, right? So if you're receiving special education, that's wonderful. If you're receiving multilingual education, that's fabulous. But if you're just in general ed and you are struggling, we have a program and resources for that and staffing for that in our buildings as well. So absolutely. My last note though is that our scores are enviable. So we are, when you're looking at 77, 78, even 73, these are things that are incredibly great and proud of scores. I know that it was asked earlier, is this inclusive of all of our students? For this data to be inclusive of everyone, these are scores that our teachers should be very proud of.
I quite agree with you. I think some students do come with very strong foundation, and to that
Absolutely.
point, when you want improve somebody from 70 to 90, that's a lot of great efforts there. But from the other hand, I also did show some of the cohort in NJTS's ER project, cohort 5. They did improve from 38 of the students on above the benchmark level to 65. You see that's a huge improvement for them. So for us, we're already at 70, and then the challenges is how can we get more of them?
Right, but as you and I have had multiple discussions, and particularly when we're discussing math, just because when we're saying that 79% of our students have reached benchmark at this time in the school year, there are multiple students in there who we have moved in the course of the year from proficiency at 70% to proficiency at 90. So most recently I was looking at some data on growth, and our growth data in ELA is an incredibly impressive statistic that goes along with this. So yes, you are 100% correct that when we are moving kids along and you are starting at a high rate, but that's why we said the 74 to the 79. I really want you to not think of that as, oh, it only went up 3%. The benchmark moved all the way out to here. So all of those kids that were at benchmark in September moved over here, they stayed at benchmark, and then more kids joined them. So it's not a small number, it's a big amount, it's a large amount of growth that happened to those students, or for those students.
I was looking at the students at risk and warning, and those numbers went down, and that to me is the
That's how that works.
I know, but to me, the amount that those numbers went down to me is more impressive in a sense than the growth in the green, because that means the strategies and the interventions are working and students are improving,
Yes.
right? And also I want to say, because Maria and I looked at each other when you talked about the boxed programs, teachers hate those, and they really hate those, and it's awful, so I'm glad that we're not doing that.
I also want to say, just to speak to the point of, and thank you for mentioning that, I completely agree. To the point of intervention, that's really bad. We could have a whole nother presentation on intervention, because that really has been another point of focus over the past several years. We have all of our academic support teachers Orton Gillingham trained, and they're able to utilize Orton Gillingham with our academic support students. We also brought in UFly Foundations, K to 4 in terms of our academic support program, as well as some additional interventions to support comprehension and oral language concerns. And that's really been something that's been popping up over the past several years. We're seeing a lot more students with concerns related to expressive and receptive, oh gosh, what time is it? It's too late. Language over the past several years. So that's really been another area of focus to kind of zeroing in on what are our interventions and are they effective?
Changes in those. Additions.
Yes, yes.
Just as a question, looking at the previous years since you've been implementing this for at least 3, what typically happens when you get that end of year, the EOY? Because we saw the beginning of year, the middle of year, and you said, obviously we want to continue to grow that. Has that been the case over the last couple of years? Are you expecting it to be the case again this year? So when we're talking about 77, 78, 79, or 73%, would we really be talking about 80-something percent perhaps?
So the grades kindergarten and grade 1 are where we have had, where we talked about being ahead of the curve. And we've had that data for multiple years now, and that has been our trend. So we have seen growth. And yes, I just want to keep stressing that greatest growth was when we went to full day kindergarten. Yes. Radical change, right? So you can imagine that 1 + 1 = 2. It does give us more time to teach, more children will learn to read. When it comes to grades 2 and 3 and measuring the things that we're now measuring, that's part of the upgrade of the 2023 standards and of the literacy initiative by the state. This is the first year that we've had this level of discrete measuring. So I'm really excited with our early data, and yes, to be able to track it over the next couple of years is what the whole state initiative is about.
And just to kind of hammer home the point of this includes all students, so our multi-language learners and our special education students, and about what % of our student body is just plain general ed. It's more like 70%, right? 70%.
I think our special ed, is 20%, 21%, or is that high?
It's a little high.
Okay.
But with MLs too, I'm saying, you're talking about not just special ed, but also our multilingual learners. When you're reading, you're learning a new language, and you're learning to read in that language. The complexity is so much greater. Yes, you are doing a fantastic job, having that many kids meeting benchmark. And again, I completely agree. No canned programs. Like, no teacher wants to be told on this day at this time you need to say this word in this way to these children. When you're looking for this response, and if you get this response, then you have to do this. And then that's not what we all went to school for. That's not, where professional development is most warranted and best used. It's to teach teachers how to effectively, implement the interventions needed for the students that they have in front of them right then and there. So it sounds like you've been doing all of that by bringing in all of these specific experts in vocabulary instruction, seeing that there's a dip there that you need to improve. So thank you and kudos to you for doing all of that and not throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah, and I was so glad that Amy said it, because this is the difference between K-12 brain and K-4 brain. One of the core values that we share is to improve teacher knowledge, and being able to use grant funds through Title II to get all of our academic support teachers trained in Gillingham. That wasn't a program that we then said, okay, now implement this. It was just training on how do children read, what does the reading staircase look like, and then they take it back and personalize it to the children in front of them. So
Whether
that's
that child is gen ed, special ed,
absolutely.
or whatever kid is in.
Yeah, so, and we hope to expand that into kindergarten this year as well. I just keep telling everybody, we have to wait till the Title II grant comes in, and I'm just crossing my fingers that it's the same as last year. Do I have hope, sir? I'm just gonna have hope all by myself. I'll just have my own hope. Anything else before we sit down?
Do you think this support will translate into this later this year? We're going to present the state outcome for grade 3.
So if we were still taking the NJSLA, I'm really disappointed that we're not. And I mean that with I mean that with true sincerity, because I feel like our teachers have really there's been a couple of really big efforts. There has been a specific targeted effort to our 2nd and 3rd graders to build all parts of that reading rope and really to work on that center part of that active view of reading. There have been strategic things and new pieces of practice added into their classrooms. And then in the work that we've done with Eddie Fergus and Rutgers around the multi-tiered system of support, really making sure that when we identify students that are at risk, and I know that this seems a little common sense, but it's a journey that everyone's on and a school district is on, we are really being specific about here's screening data that tells us a kid is at risk. Now let's dig into diagnostic data and find out where they are at risk and why they're not learning, and then let's match an intervention specifically to that need. And so that has been work that we have done at a level that we've done it previously. We have ratcheted it up this year significantly, and I'm a little sad that it's not an apples to apples test. So if you, like, I'm not really looking forward to presenting the new data because I don't know the level of confidence I have in it yet. It's gonna have to come out, I'm gonna have to look at it, and I'm gonna compare it to the other local data that we have in-house. So I'm really happy that we are at a place where we have robust in-house data, multiple data points, so that we can compare and contrast. And if it's on target, I'll be celebrating, and if it's different, we'll be talking about why and doing an analysis, as I'm sure the state will be doing a deep analysis themselves as to where did we hit it this year. And there's a couple teachers on the panel that are responding to what we're all struggling with right now.
But that is the goal, right? The goal is always to see that the data that we're using, what we're collecting in-house, should be matching
Always.
what the state ends up assessing. Like, hopefully that is what
That exactly one of the seminar, one of the school district mentioned about that they saw like in-house data doing great, but just not reflecting there, and they wonder what's ongoing. That's why I brought to my previous conversation about what we teach. And then for us, in the past 5 years, for third graders, is always 50% of the kids on target, meet and beyond the target. That means another half are not. That's really concerning for me.
It's been about 60. It's somewhere, it's usually 57,
Yeah,
58, 56. I know, but that's a big difference, right? When we're talking about 72 to 74, 50 to 58 is a big difference. And again, this was a big year, and I am disappointed because I can tell you that some of our local data is trending in a beautiful direction, as evidenced by the slide. Like, I was getting prepared and getting ready for tonight, being able to pull this data point and say that our students taking a comprehensive third grade test in the fall were at 66, and now they are at 73. Would I love to be able to see that in our NJSLA-A? I would. Do I know that that's gonna happen? I don't right now. So I'm just gonna hold my breath with everybody else and see what the data comes and triangulate it to other things that I have.
But I also noted there was a big jump from third grade to fourth grade scores.
Always.
And it is also the first time that third graders are really taking that kind of test. And so I always question the accuracy of that, the validity, I don't know which word is the right one, but I always question the third grade test because it's the first time they're really doing it. And for a lot of kids, that makes a big difference in the testing. It's something new, and we don't always do well on things when we're brand new at doing them. I don't care how much you try to prep them, and it's not the same as the day that the test is actually on the desk or on the computer. It's not on the desk anymore. Sorry, I'm just showing my age when I say that. But it's the first time that they're really doing it, and it's just different, I think.
I love that answer, and it's true, but we also did do a deep dive into our data and make some decisions about practice and pedagogy and resources as well, right? So they both go together. But when we look at our trends and our scores in 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and they are so significantly different, I'm confident that the 4th grade teachers would not say that 3rd grade teachers are not preparing the students. There is some anomalies, but it doesn't mean that we've ignored that and that we haven't taken that to heart as well. So I am sad that this is the year that apples changed to oranges.
Thank you. I have 2 comments to Francine's comments. First one, I think you're not trying to say early literacy does not matter.
No, I'm not.
Okay, thank you. Second is other 80 school districts participate in NJTSS ER project. They have results showed in NJ state assessment. They can meet that. I believe we can too.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we have committee reports next. First is the MTEA report. Mr. No, I have
Good evening. So for MTA report, we were able to have News from the Heart on May 9th. It was an amazing show. Thank you for all who attended. A huge shout out to our staff that put it on. They practiced for months just getting ready for that entire show, and it's all volunteer work because they love it and they just love doing it for everybody. We were able to get out 6 scholarships for that. They'll be announced on June 3rd for our students, and we have a great connection with the band parents and their organization, the Instrumental Band Parent Organization. So thank you to them for helping out as well. The show was incredible. It was incredible. They did a great job. We also participated in the Spring Fling, and that was great. We got to get out there with the community and just hand out some things, interact. Allison and Stacy were out there for a couple hours, and they give a huge shout out to the Montgomery Fire Department who chased our tent because it blew away and then got mangled, so they had to take the jaws of life to cut the tent apart. So we appreciate that they did that for us. Big thank you to them. So we'll be in the market for a new tent this season, but well, thank you to them, big shout out. Spirit Wear happened this week as well. We had a ton of donations. Huge shout out to the community who are giving some different clothing back, and we were able to get a bunch of people in over at UMS. Stacy spearheaded that again, and it was a huge success. We're seeing a lot of success in those different clothing drops, so that's something that we will continue to do as we go forward. We have 2 more read-alouds, so May 29th is the next one, so hopefully we'll see a lot of different students there. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Cooley. Now we have our board member delegate reports. Does anyone have a report to give? I do as well, but go ahead first.
I have one for the Somerset County report. So we had a. Can you hear me?
No, turned off.
Doesn't work. So we had the Somerset County School Boards Association meeting held on the May 4th. We received an update from the interim executive county superintendent, and he highlighted the ongoing countywide priorities and areas of collaboration among school districts. We also heard a summary of the recent NJSBA Board of Directors meetings focused on statewide policy discussion, legislative development, and board training initiated. NJSBA government relation team provided a legislative briefing on ongoing bills affecting school funding, special ed, and board operations. A sample resolution urging relief from rising public school employee health care costs was shared and discussed by them. So earlier, this afternoon, I shared that sample resolution with all of the board members here. So that purpose is to invite school district to review it, and so we can consider to adopt it. The resolution is intended to create a unified statewide message urging legislative action on health benefits related cost pressures. So I recommend the other 8 board members and colleagues can review it and consider adopting it at the next board meeting to join a collective advocacy effort on the rising cost of health benefits. So maybe that's something I should work with President and Mary. In addition, Kathy from NJSBA Field Services highlighted the upcoming professional development opportunities and noted that more training sessions are expected in the fall, and she encouraged board members to complete the survey they sent out regarding the topics we are most interested in. And that link has also been forwarded in the email I sent to you earlier. A highlight of the evening was the recognition of the educators and board members across the county. The school year 2025 and 2026 Somerset Teacher of the Year, Kiran Masad of Hillside Intermediate School, was honored with introductions from her principal and Bridgewater superintendent. I also want to note that last year, it was our teacher, Stephanie from UMS, who was honored with this award. The association was recognized in new board member certifications and 10-year and 15-year service milestones. I also want to thank our board member, Vanita, for being there to celebrate with me as I received the new board member certification. So overall, the meeting emphasized collaboration, recognition of excellence, and continued advocacy for our students and communities. So I'm happy to share more details or answer any other questions, and that concludes my report. Thank you.
Okay, congratulations, Dr. Wang, on your award.
Yes, thank you. Congratulations on the recognition. Is there other?
Yeah, I have a municipal alliance report. Just to news, our committee chair, Lori Huff, is stepping down, and we'll miss her. She's a very hardworking, very nice person, and we will miss her. We don't know who is going to be replacing her. Sorry. Yeah. So, as Mary said, this is the month of Mental Health Awareness Month, and the theme of the Mental Health America was More Good Days Together. And so, and we had a small little thing where she asked everybody, what do we do when we are feeling stressed? And everybody went to the table, and then we told us what we do. It was an interesting thing. And lunch and learn program, 7 sessions with 14 speakers. Topics were included: pediatric health and public relations and career pathways, and Youth Action Board, Student Leadership and Engagement Initiative continued. They showcased a very well-made video with our district students. It was very cute. And other than that, they have Indie Flex Mental Health Series. They screened Angst, Like, and Upstander, partnership with Somerset County Municipal Alliance. Upcoming virtual screenings are Race to be Human on June 18th. And there are some community events are coming up. Farmers Market is opening day, May 30th. The Dyslexia Dash on June 7th. Strawberry Festival, June 7th. Run with Rotary, June 14th. Race to be Human on June 18th. So it was a very productive meeting with a lot to discuss, and we had the only thing, the funding is very low, and they're trying their best, and then they were talking about how difficult it is to provide funding because there is lots of rules and regulations. Sometimes it becomes very difficult for them to give funding, following through all the steps the state wants them to follow, and the money doesn't come to them the same year. It comes to them 1 year later after sending a lot of paperwork. So that was also discussed. But they did assure us nothing is going to change. Everything will continue, and they will still support us the way they've been supporting the school district. That's my report.
Thank you. That's good to hear that. I mean, it is always hard to raise funding, but they do so much for us. They do like Girls on the Run, and there's so many programs that they partner with. So, and we'll definitely miss Lori.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other?
For the PTA, just a reminder to please file your books. OHES has an upcoming event, a fire truck ride for the students. You can donate and put money towards that and see if your name is picked, as well as Teach Birds Day at AES. PTO, same thing, look for yearbook sales, they're ongoing. LMS, there's an upcoming event, Take the Principal fundraiser, and at UMS there's Color Be Mine Social and Soap the Staff fundraiser. The PTO has also approved a one-time grant of up to $5,700 for the school to support the 250th celebration. And the PTSA for the high school is planning their ice cream social for the seniors and for the high school. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Harris. Anybody else? Yep.
At the MSEPTA update.
Yes.
So the MSEPTA had a virtual meeting on April 30th. They shared 2 events. One actually already passed on May 13th. It was run by the Children's Interagency Coordinating Council of Somerset County, hosting a webinar to learn about children's system of care, community agencies, and services available for families. Again, something that Board Member Nargan mentioned, the Dyslexia Dash will be Sunday, June 7th at 9 a.m. It's a 5K run walk at Skillman Park. They were TBD on a community event that was going to be run in conjunction with the Montgomery Township Police Department around the Blue Envelope program. So the Blue Envelope program, for anyone who's unfamiliar with it, is a blue envelope that's given to drivers who can then, if they're pulled over by a police officer, share so that the drivers know that so the police department knows that the driver has autism, and so the rationale is to improve the interaction between drivers with autism spectrum disorder and police officers on traffic stops. The hope is to create more positive outcomes and which are safe for everyone involved. The initiative addresses several key objectives, which are enhancing understanding, reducing anxiety, streamlining communication, and encouraging preparedness. Building on the Blue Envelope program is the Special Needs Identification Decal program. These are designed to improve safety, communication, and understanding between first responders and residents with special needs. MSEPTA worked with the Montgomery Township Police Department to design the decal. This initiative provides voluntary identification decals for homes and vehicles, helping officers and first responders quickly recognize when an individual with autism or other cognitive or developmental conditions may be present. The decals are available at the municipal building now.
There was also a vote, they were going to be voting on scholarships available for high school seniors. They shared that they had a successful fundraiser with their annual dance, and a lot of that success was due to a generous donation from the Elks Club for both the space and the food. They would love to see a larger turnout at that event. They just spoke about a grant that was approved for a teacher for items in the classroom, and then there was some feedback from parents. One was suggesting that it'd be nice to see some of the creative flexibility and analysis that's put into the general education program to also be applied to the special education program. I think the conversation was specifically around the addition of new AP classes, and that they really applaud that, and they want to see where can we use our the same kind of creative thinking and looking for opportunities for the special education program. The other feedback was that they would like to see more of a consistent unified offering from 6th grade on, so that and they did mention that it is something that's already been implemented, that now in 6th grade, and 7th graders now have the opportunity to participate in unified. In the past, that wasn't the case. And then the feedback was that right now in 9th and 10th graders do not participate in unified. So you have students who get this momentum and really build these relationships with students, and then they have a break before they're able to participate again. And the suggestion was it'd be nice to see if that could be some greater continuity for those relationship building.
I think that from what we've heard, they're trying to do that, right? That is what is the intent, and our faculty is trying to make sure that bridge for the unified program exists as well. Important.
Yes, and note that it hadn't previously been available in 7th, and now it is, so that you're trying to create that relationship.
Do you know in middle school what's the percentage of the student participating in that, and what's the percentage in high school participating in that program?
I actually am unfamiliar with the percentages participating. I know it is a voluntary participation.
Yeah, it's voluntary participation.
And I believe at some levels there's also, is there an not an assessment, but it's not just, in the past, my understanding was that it was a privilege to be selected to participate in the program.
Right.
Was there an essay they had to write?
So the UMS, there was no essay. We used to do it as part of acceptance week. We have our current students present with the students that were in Unified, so all of our students would present together what the program is about, and then the students would apply to a little blurb about why they want to be in the program, and then the staff would go around talking to teachers and recommending to see what students were good in the program. And then we usually have about 30 students or so, anyway, range depending on the number of other students that we had in class. And then that would make up what the UMS program would be. So 8th grade was like around 30 students, probably around 400 students in the class. And then it expanded a little bit more when we added art and music and world studies. So maybe around 50 students now, with some overlaps. I'd say about 50 to 3
So the goal, like for high school, each grade, we also can keep about 30, something like that, 30 students get involved.
That would be great.
Oh, that's what I heard from the reporter. Because he said, want to increase the participation. Thank you.
I do know that the first thing that you mentioned, it already passed, the
Yes,
virtual
May
event.
13th.
It was not very well attended. I did go to it, and there was some great information about the services that companies like Perform Care provide to wrap around with students in need for all sorts of things. And I wish that more people understood the importance of looking to the county level for help with all of the different services that are available.
Are you talking about building transition program?
No, I was talking about the
Sorry, it was May 13th, the Children's Interagency Coordinating Council of Somerset County. They had a webinar specifically about children's system of care. It's about community agencies and services available to families. They had a number of organizations come and talk about the services that they offer. They also had a panel with a parent who utilized some of the services to give a little bit more information, like this is what it's like for a real parent who's using them.
Yeah, it was very informative. The people that they had come out to speak were great. The parent that they had come out to talk about her with somebody in Somerset County that what she went through with her kid and how she was able to get them the services that they needed. I just wish that it was better attended by our community so that we could bring those services to our students. So just a plug for parents to come and see what's out there and educate yourself. if there's no others, I have one report on the annual Delegates Assembly, which took place on Saturday, which is the statewide assembly where we vote on the resolutions that come up twice a year. There were 6 resolutions I mentioned at the last board meeting. So the first one was the only one that failed. That resolution was about ranked choice voting versus block voting. Right now, all boards of ed in the state of New Jersey use block voting. You vote for your Board of Education members. Ranked choice voting is something that's familiar to people from the last mayoral election in New York City. Use ranked choice voting. The resolution was to provide boards with the option of going with whatever they felt would be best for their community. That failed. So people want to keep block voting the way that it is and not give the option. The other 5 resolutions passed. One was about immigration enforcement in schools, that schools remain a safe haven for students, and that we are here to educate and provide a appropriate education for all students regardless of immigration status. That did pass. There was a lot of debate, and it was a good debate. I know that some of our board members were there virtually, so maybe you heard some of the commentary. Resolution 3 was about the pilot funding, which we don't really have any of that in our district. However, the rest of the state does have the ability to hopefully now get some tax relief from pilot funded projects. There was also the school funding formula. There was nothing on healthcare. Everybody wanted something, so hopefully that resolution that you mentioned does eventually get forward through. Excuse me. And then, like I said, the other ones, they all did pass. The only one that did not was the voting block. Any questions?
This was my first time. I have to say it was very interesting. If other board members have now not attended this, you must attend. It's very interesting how they discuss about each resolution and how people oppose and how it was. I was glued to my laptop for 3 hours.
We had a very robust discussion about the word should versus shall,
Yes.
and it's a very important distinction.
Yes,
And,
it was,
you know,
and
there-
all the resolutions were, great, and points they were talking for it and against it. It was amazing. So I thought it was very interesting. So everybody should attend at least once as a board member.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so now we move on to our committee reports. So ACI is up first. Board Member Harris.
Okay, thank you. So for ACI minutes, under the assessment curriculum and instruction portion, there were 2 textbooks or books, resource recommendations for 2026-2027. The first one, the book Yellow Face, for English grades 9 through 12. It's an edition. It's a modern Asian author exploring themes related to guilt, culture, appropriation, fraud, plagiarism, and isolation in the online era. The point of view creates a unique vehicle for discussing the ways in which modern ambition and catfishing end up resulting in widespread harm. Next, the book of James. It's for English grades 9 through 12, English 11 CP honors, and it's an edition. The new novel explores the events of Mark Twain's American classic through the lens of Miss Watson's slave, Jim. It addresses the perpetual issues with Jim's historical actions as told through Twain by giving James, no longer Jim, agency, voice, and ultimately power. With a twist, he is Huck's biological father. Everett confronts the unflinching violence and injustice of the American South without the sympathetic victimization of its characters. The allusions, code-switching, satire, and descriptions of the Mississippi relate to larger ideas about Black empowerment, freedom, and education, and makes this an easy touchstone text in an English classroom. Next, we talked about the K through 3 literacy presentation, which was presented tonight. Thank you, Ms. Moreland and Ms. Monaco. Next, we discussed world cultures. Mary stated looking at staffing and the world language offerings through the district through budget, curriculum, and what is best for kids. We saw a need to transition the students into world cultures to expose them to global cultures. Through a world culture course, students will study multiple cultures each year as well as associated language. The curriculum will always contrast and compare the other cultures to American culture. The structures are collections of the global region, daily life, animals, food, etc. There will be 8 to 9 lessons per culture with small language pieces within each culture. The novice language level required by the World Language NJSLS makes a focus on culture possible while still meeting all the world's language standards. This change will happen at Orchard Hill Elementary for the next year, 2026 to 2027. Next, we discuss the state assessment updates. Village grades 3 students tested ELA and math the week of May 4th. Grades 4 students will test the week of May 11th. For LMS, grade 5 students tested NJSLA Science the week of April 27th. Both grades 5 and 6 will test ELA and math the week of May 11th. UMS grade 8 students tested NJSLA Science the week of May 4th. Both grades 7 and 8 will test LA, ELA, and math the week of May 11th. High school grade 11 students tested NJSLA Science the week of April 27th. High school students will test NJSLA, ELA, and math on May 19th, 20, 21st. Note please, only grades 5, 8, and 11 participate in the science assessment. Next, under special services, we discussed this already. The children's system of care presentation was discussed. And last, under technology, an update on technology usage. Taking feedback and doing an internal metrics look over. A survey will be distributed to staff. A share out will be made at the June ACI meeting. So step 1 will be a metric on technology use generated by our digital monitoring tools. Step 2 will collaborate with building administrators and supervisors for anecdotal evidence, survey development, and distribution. Step 3, building administrators communicate with teachers. The purpose of the survey is to collect accurate data. Technology use is not being seen as negative or positive. This is a neutral ask. Step 4, surveys completed by Memorial Day weekend, outcome presented at June ACI. And some of the discussion points will be: how much time do your students spend on classroom Chromebooks, the type of activities such as consumption, composition, creation, assessment, current experience with technology use in the classroom, open-ended feedback. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Board Member Parks?
Yeah, I have 2 questions. Oh, great, it works. So the first one is related to the work culture, and thank you, Mary, for providing the response. I have a follow-up question is, well, I agree with you, expanding the exposure and better enhance the student ability to choose a language in the interest for the future, right? Start from elementary. Do we have some plans for our middle schooler and high schoolers?
So we're starting at the elementary level, and we're having discussions through next year on how we're going to either continue the program, reassess the program, change the program, and the next complement to the program.
Thank you.
So yes.
Okay, thank you. Another question is related to the technology use. I know I sent a question related to the like per grade, or what's the average screen time that student exposed to? Is that part of the internal metrics we're talking about here?
Yes, the teachers just completed the survey, and they will disaggregate the results and share them out at the June ACI meeting, because that is very important for us to have that information to make changes and move forward.
That would be great. And another follow-up question is, I saw many school districts, some parents, they chose to opt out the technology or whatever screen time or technology use. If our parents chose to do that, are our school district ready for that?
Not at this time. I think that we would need to do some professional development, look at everything, look at our policies, look at best practices.
I know in our policy, I know you haven't given the report yet, sorry to jump ahead a little bit. In our policy, I believe last month we talked about the state will have AI, some of the legislation a policy around? Is that something we're about to discuss soon, you think?
What, our AI policy?
AI technology. I remember one of the policy we in our agenda we talked about.
So we're talking about the DOE is developing.
Yeah, the
AI policy.
AI policy.
And they need to update it.
Correct, yeah. Our policy's in the midst of being
So that we
created.
have to wait for the NGDOE to and then
Did we
discuss.
talk about waiting for the DOE to have
Some
a
of
policy?
yeah, there's some stress estimating has started with one and they're
Yeah, we have the Strauss Esme one, and I know Mr. Brooks and his crew have been working on, and I was going to present that at the June PCC meeting.
But that, you think we're gonna discuss in June? Or?
June, yes, definitely in the June meeting.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Any other questions for Board Member Harris on ACI? Okay, and so next up is OFF, so is Cookie.
OFF met today, it was a rescheduled meeting from last week, so we had a lot of agenda items that we did not get to. So again, the food service update, facility use policy update, and the energy audit conversation will be moved to the June meeting. So what we discussed today were two things. One was, the easy one would be the school district representatives, Mr. Italiano, Superintendent McLaughlin, were invited to meet with members of Montgomery Township governing body to discuss shared services, and in particular shared services around technology. The town wanted information on how the district procured technology and if it was possible for them to join with us to save as a bulk buy-in. So the town was asked to share lists so that we can share with our district attorney and purchasing groups that we are a part of to see if it is feasible. So Mr. Italiano is waiting for that list from the township. The other topic that we discussed, which took most of the time, was the conversation around healthcare, in particular because our prescription usage has increased. We had asked our representatives from Brown & Brown to present to us a way to save money on prescription plans. So the presentation of Jim Finn was around saving on GLP-1 prescription drugs, and the only difference here would be purchasing the GLP-1 drugs directly from manufacturing companies, which are the pharmaceutical companies, versus the CVS or the Walgreens. These conversations are still ongoing because there are mechanics to this program that we don't fully understand because this has not been done in the state of New Jersey. The partner of Brown & Brown, which is RX Safecard, has done this program in other states. In Massachusetts was the example that they shared, but there is no school district in the state of New Jersey that has done this. So we want to be very careful and be very prudent when we are looking at this potential cost savings and program to the district. So we've asked Mr. Italiano to send the presentation to our district attorney to review before we present it to the full board and have further discussions on this. So this is ongoing, and I am complete.
And I just wanted to add, the discussions would have to be with the unions in the district as well.
So nothing has been decided because we want to make sure that we understand what this program is, since, first district to do it. If we do decide to do it, that's going to be tricky. So to understand really if there are savings, what are the mechanics, what is the operational or administrative burden to the district, all those things have yet to be discussed. So just so you know, we are working on trying to figure out ways to save on the healthcare side of our operations.
Are you talking about the rebate program? Or a different one?
This is not rebate.
No, this is a direct-to-consumer program.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mary, I have a question for you. So this shared, you guys had a meeting with the township. I was just two questions. Was it initiated by them or initiated by us, the meeting?
Who was it done?
Wasn't Vince here?
I think it was done
I
here.
believe it was here.
So,
It was last
so the
month.
town, so the
Yeah.
meeting,
The deputy
the
mayor
deputy
was
mayor
here
came to the podium, I said,
Yeah.
why don't you email me? And the next morning I had an email, and we kind of took it from there.
It's a good step, in my
Very, very positive.
Very positive.
I think so.
So, my next question is, when the discussion was happening, the agenda item had only one particular area, or you had discussed with many other areas like swimming pool and tennis courts and technology? Did you guys discuss all of it, or just focused on technology bulk buying?
You were on the OFF call today, right? And we reviewed what we discussed on the OFF call, and the primary part of the conversation is they reached out. We're a larger purchase of technology, infrastructure, services, and materials. They're a smaller purchase. They wanted to see if they could join in with us to do bulk purchasing, to save some money, and we said to send the list over and we would review it. If it's legally possible, we'd be happy to help. That was the primary part of the conversation. We said we're open to other shared services if they make sense for both sides in the future.
So this
That
will
was-
keep going, it's just a starting point, and then we keep meeting them for other areas also.
Mr. Nunez, you have a
What I
point?
understood is today's meeting was, the meeting that occurred was more of an introductory, like just opening the channel of communication, right? No commitment to anything, just getting to know who the key players are and just saying, hey, this is, what can we and can't we explore, but there was no definitive list going into it, right? That was not the expectation. It was more, how do we start talking about this?
100%. That's well put, and to kind of just bring it all together. When we were meeting, I asked if there was any agenda or any items they wanted me to research, pursue to be prepared, and they said, no, we'll kind of discuss like when we get together, and we just, they kind of came up with this idea. I researched it, said it looks like it's possible, and like that's where we are. Very introductory, like Mr. Newey said. I hope that helps.
Yeah, that's it. Just want to find out.
Yeah, on the agenda, I saw K24 of realignment. You guys did not
No,
mention it.
we didn't have time. The presentation by Brown and Brown took like 45 minutes, so there was no opportunity to do that.
Okay.
Yep, thank you.
All right, I will give our update for PCC. So we met on May 11th and discussed five policies for first read. So it was policy 0162 and 0162.01. Both of those had to do with notice of board meetings and legal notices. And those policies are updated to reflect that per state statutes, board meeting notices are required to be posted on the district's official website. Districts no longer need to provide hard copy notices to any newspapers or through mailings or verbally through phone calls, so just on the district website. And then along with that, the .01 part is new, per the new state statutes, which address the publishing or advertising of legal notices. The requirement is to publish or advertise on the district's official website as well. 0176 is also a new policy, putting into writing the clarification as to which board members should be exempt from participating in negotiations, as well as which board members can vote on approval ratification of a collective bargaining agreement. So, because there is confusion a lot of the time with
you're with
board
us.
members, especially when you are someone who might be conflicted, thank you. However, so like to be on negotiations for MTEA, that would not be permissible for me or for board member Pfeffer, or for Lenita either, because of our affiliation with other districts. However, we still can vote to ratify a contract, and we can participate in negotiations on our other collective bargaining units. So that has never been policy. We've just always followed the rules as we're supposed to, as ethics tells us to. So now it is board policy as to how that is to be worked and done. The other policy was 163601, notification of promotion, new jobs and transfer opportunities. Another new policy per law that all reasonable efforts must be made to announce and post positions both internally and externally. This has again always been done through our human resources. We've already been doing this for many, many decades, but it is now a new policy, so it is in writing that it has to be done. 5517 is and 8600 are kind of together regarding school district issued student identification cards. Both of these two policies incorporate a new requirement that is going to be in there that students must present their district issued student IDs when boarding the school bus to ensure safety of our students. This is important for parents to reiterate at home that we need to make sure that our kids have their IDs on them ready to go when they get onto the bus, so that the bus drivers aren't then having to put in identification numbers and taking that time, stalling and delaying routes and having to deal with all of that. So it's really important for safety, for the timely operations of transportation and to get school going on time for all kids to have those on them. I know that Board Member Moreland had some questions about that, and we'll get to that. I just want to also say that there's abolishment of two policies, which are the board member in term of ascending district and receiving district. They are being abolished because they don't apply to us and never have, so there's no point to having them. So that is pretty much all we were able to get to at our PCC meeting. We did talk again a little bit about the norms, but because all board members were not or all committee members were not on the call again, we're going to push that to June. Hopefully we'll get to it once we're all able to sit down together. Any questions?
Yes, so I had a question. It was about the policy 5517 about the school district issued student identification cards. I promise I'll say it again. So while the purpose of reviewing the policy was specifically about presenting the identification cards while boarding the bus, given the opportunity to read the policy, I noticed that at the bottom it says an identification card used in accordance with, there's a statute, shall include but need not be limited to the following information: the student's name, an up-to-date photograph, and the current school year. So the reason I was concerned is that I don't remember if I got an email from Orchard, but I know I did from LMS when the student IDs were issued. It said that from moving on, students will only be issued a new ID when they enter a new building. So if that is the case, the ID couldn't have the current year. It could have the year of the photograph, but it couldn't have the current school year. It's only being issued every other year.
As we review the policy, we're reviewing the practices in the building, so that is not correct. We will have new identification cards for students each year with the school year plan.
Okay, that's what I noticed that, and it makes sense to not have to be reproducing a card when children generally are not looking radically different from one year to the next. But if that was the requirement, then.
But in the high school, when they come in as freshmen and leave as seniors, they come in as children and leave as adults. So they do definitely look different. Yeah, and I don't know about the rest of you with kids, but I think we're on like ID card number 3 or 4 in the year because they keep breaking them. Yeah.
Sitting on them.
So just to understand, so the kids will get a new ID every year from kindergarten to high school.
And then you had mentioned something else about the lanyards at recess, and
yes.
that I forwarded your email to Mrs. McLaughlin also, and she assured me that we have the breakaway lanyards for safety purposes everywhere. I think that's super important. We can't have.
Yes, so that was something that also says the expectation that they would have them at all times in the school, and I'm just thinking of not just the breakaway lanyards, but this kind of thing. The kids are liable to hurt one another, and I'm just wondering, it's nice to have that. I see and fully support on the buses. It's like a very important tracking mechanism to understand where kids are getting on and getting off. In the school building, I know they use it for lunch. I know they use it for the library. I'm just wondering at the younger grades, how much benefit is there to having them have it all the time? Is it only in
Each
transit?
school has a different protocol for when they have to have the identification cards. There might be a school trip that they say you don't need to bring them because they don't want them lost. There might be one that they say please bring them because it's important for safety reasons that we have them. So that's definitely a protocol that's going to be individual to the building and the event. Thank you.
Any other questions on policy?
Yeah, quick question. You mentioned the topic on the meeting notifications. You said it can go online only now? Or is it
It
100%?
no longer needs to be sent to the newspapers.
So it goes to our legal notice. Like, here's an example. I'll show
ahead.
you. So like, for example, we had a notice of change for board retreat. We changed it from tonight to June. So in the past, when you had a change to your advertised meeting calendar, you would have to put a notification in the paper. Now, you put the notification on your website. There's a section, like on our website, legal notices. It identifies the date when we did that. You click on it. It has the notification for me. And then it's also and so basically online in the legal notice section. So basically, the law changed to, basically for the purpose that they know most people are using digital resources versus newspapers now. So we were doing this before the requirement because we got notified at the beginning of the year, so we're compliant with this.
Right. So
Does that
up
mean
until
you no longer
then.
have to publish in the newspaper?
Right.
The only thing I published was the budget because some people told me I didn't have to, but most of my veteran peers did. So I published the budget hearing in the paper to be transparent, but like all the other notices for like bids and meeting changes and things like that, nope, we just have to post it to the legal notice section of our website to be compliant now.
Perfect.
So it saves a lot of money and it's the resource that most people use this day and age. Like,
It's good to hear the laws finally caught up to like 2004 internet.
Yeah. Any
I
other
have
questions?
a general question. I know we going to talk about committee norm, and I wonder for ACI and OFF and HRC, do you guys discuss that this year?
Well, the ACI norms were
Yes.
OFF.
I did it in January just for the sake that we had new members. So I wanted them to just have an understanding what the expectations are. And I believe that like all the other groups do too. I don't sit on all of them, but I think we do.
But I think we also discussed this at the PCC meeting a couple months ago where it'd be nice to have a standard norm for all
Yes,
the committees.
yes.
You have a specific one for your committee, but there could be standards across that would,
We could look into that. I'm sure everybody's is very similar, that we
Yeah.
could streamline it. That wouldn't be difficult to do. So I'll make a note of that.
That's what I'm going
That's,
to
I
say
think,
is,
hopefully the intent, yeah, that let's
Yeah.
all look at ours and see.
yeah, for each committee, we have one, but for each agenda, for each committee, we also put that on the top, similar to ACI. To streamline it.
And it would also be the norms that we would adopt for public board meetings as
Yeah.
well. So,
I'm sure we could review the basics unless there's some differences between the meeting and the data. But like for the basics, I'm sure we could take it.
and I do not have a report from Patrick to share from HRC. Let me see what's going.
The state mentoring fund.
The mentoring, okay. So, this is the district mentoring plan and the state?
Well, we
I
will
wasn't
change
at
it for
the-
district mentoring plan because the state changed the parameters.
Okay, and I'm reviewing this, and I don't think there was anything else
No.
that we could discuss here.
Correct.
Does he want other committee member report that, share that report? Did he say so? Patrick?
He did not. So, I mean, typically HRC does not go into great detail because most of what we talk about in the HRC is completely confidential. So looking at this, it doesn't look like there is anything except for the mentoring plan, which is providing a much more in-depth new teacher mentoring program for our new staff that
which is typical because Mr. Todd's report is usually
The shortest.
significantly
Yeah,
brief
yeah.
compared to
No,
all
it's
the
only
other
the
ones.
mentoring
for
plan
obvious
that's on the
reasons.
agenda.
I mean,
And
it
the
talks
questions
about-
were who set the cost, and the cost was set by
Right.
the state,
I was gonna
and
say
who
it
gets
talks about
one, that was the
pays for
discussion.
it.
Yeah.
It's the teacher that pays into the mentoring program.
And it's a state requirement.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's a
we have to.
requirement,
It's a state
it's all
requirement,
parameters
which we
for it
have to
and the cost for it, yeah.
And did Patrick get back to my answer about possible to have a, when people do not select it, our system can generate a friendly response to them, and thanks for their interest in applying for our school district new jobs.
That came up at the last meeting, and I'm sure Mrs. Matt has heard that, so I'll follow up with her to make sure that that was discussed, and if not discussed, they'll bring it up at the June HRC meeting.
Thank you. I think it's just a nice gesture to show the job applicants.
Yeah, I don't know, unless Ms. Nargon or Ms. Harris knows, I was not on the HRC.
I know Kelly answered it last meeting. She said that everyone gets a generated email. If you're invited in for an interview, and you come in for an interview, you obviously get some kind of correspondence, but it might vary from position and who's running the search committee. Yeah.
Right, that is the end of our committee reports. So at this time, we acknowledge correspondence to the board. And it is recommended that the Board of Education adopt a resolution to convene an executive session whenever it follows. Is there anything at this point that we need to do before motioning to adjourn to executive?
Nope, we just need a motion, a second, and a
So moved.
Motion.
all in
All
favor?
in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for your patience as we reconvene in open session. Let's do roll call.
Okay,
We don't have a, should we wait a minute?
that's we have quorum. Dr. Wayne is making her way back. Ms. Pfeffer?
Here.
Ms.
Or
Franklin
Mrs.
Herman?
Sayes.
Here.
Ms. Worland is making, Dr. Wang's present. All right. Ms. Worland's making her way back. Ms. Harris?
Here.
Ms. Nunez?
Here.
Ms. Nargon?
Present.
Spina?
Present.
All right, we have. All right, so we have a quorum, we can continue. Is there like we're supposed to have a first and second to like reconvene back in the open session, so somebody could just holler that out.
Moved.
Take it down. Thank you. So that's noted. We have a quorum, and Ms. Worland, do you want to give her a minute, Ms. Spina? That's up to you. You want to give her a minute?
She's coming.
too?
She's coming. She's coming in.
Okay, so we'll give her a minute.
Walk carefully.
Nope.
All right.
All right, so Ms. Worland's here. We have our dedicated members of the public, and we are now ready to continue.
So now we will recommend that the Board of Education approve the minutes for the following board meetings: the April 28th, 2026 executive session and April 28th, 2026 business meeting.
So moved.
Second. Properly moved and second. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same right. Abstentions? Okay.
Thank you. Motion's
Approval
carried.
of the minutes is carried. Next is our action agenda items, public comment. The Board of Education welcomes and encourages input from the public members. Members of the public are allotted one opportunity to address the board regarding action agenda items only for up to a maximum of 3 minutes per speaker. All comments must be directed to the board. Before you make your comment, please state your full name and address and enter both in the promo provided. Being mindful of privacy rights regarding students, board employees, and board members, and to avoid any liability on the part of the speaker, the board discourages defamatory and discourteous remarks. The public comment portion of the meetings are not structured as question and answer sessions, but rather are offered as opportunities for the public to share their thoughts with the board. The board may need to refer to an issue to a superintendent if the issue has not been handled starting at the school level. Responses may be provided at the end of this session. Public comment for action agenda items is now open. Seeing no public comments, action agenda item public comments is now closed. We now need to move to,
So now we're on the action agenda part of the agenda. So we have items 1.1 to 4.1. Is there any discussion on the action agenda items?
we have to move first.
No, we do this. That's what we do, right? Yeah, go ahead.
I move the action items.
Second.
Okay, and now we can discussion.
Now, anything? It's all open for the board. Dr. Wang, you look like you have a question.
Yeah, for 3.3, the bill list, I have 3 questions. I noticed the bill list, the format slightly changed in the check type, and it said CF means computer full, CP means computer partial, HREF is hand check full, HP is hand check partial. So can you help me understand when this code is being used and what does it mean?
Sure, I'll help you out. You, if I recall, over the last couple months had real issue with the bills list. So, with respect to that, I reviewed the process of the bills list, called the software company, had multiple meetings with my team, and spoke to my association. So I streamlined the bills list to one date-sensitive report that begins the day after the end of the board meeting till the day of the current board meeting, and it captures all of the checks covered, and the dollar amount that's on the end of the report is the dollar amount that's reported on the agenda. The superintendent reviewed the report. She's been here for quite a bit of time. She's like, wow, this was much easier to read. No offense to the people before me, they were trained the way they were trained. It was just a more nice, old-fashioned, traditional way to do it. This is how I've done it in the past. And based on your comments, I respected them and wanted to make it easier. If you have any questions, like on the check register, you get the agenda on Friday. I've said this multiple times. I'm going to say it again. You have time to ask like those the kind of granular, detailed questions about how the bills list is. At the table is not the time for them. So please ask me those in advance or come to my office. But I changed the bills list because you made a point to it. So I wanted to make it easier for everybody. And that's what I did. That's my answer to your question. That's the answer. If you have any other questions about like specific checks and that, you can take them. Hold on, please let me finish. You could take the bills list, you can make notes on them, you can email them to Patrick, and then if he sends it to me, I'll answer the questions. That's our process. Thank you.
I'm not asking about specific checks, I'm just asking about those categories.
Yeah, I'm not going to go over the codes like at the public table. You had plenty of opportunity to do that. Please send the email to Patrick, he can send it to me. That's not fair. No, please allow me to finish. I don't want to interrupt you. That's not fair to do that to me. That's on the spot. You had plenty of time to review it and answer the question. I'm going to say it again, like this is being recorded, it's in public session. Ask in advance if you want a good answer. If you're going to ask like at the table, you're going to get a general answer. Thank you.
Yeah. And then I will ask it, record it good, and next month we can come back and visit it. Another thing is I did see the page 2 on the snow removal. It's like January and February, and right now is in May. We saw that. That's a question. If you don't want to answer it on site, we can defer it to the next meeting.
So one thing at a time. What snow, you said that like really quick, what snow removal are you referring to from like February now? Could you,
yeah, January and February we have emergency snow removal. Also,
what agenda item are you referring to?
In the bill list. That's also part of the agenda.
Right, so any questions that you have that are detailed, I don't have a bills list in front of me.
Yeah.
I'm a pretty smart guy. I don't have like the 50-page bill list memorized.
You don't have to.
No, any questions like that, please email them to me. Please ask in advance. Thank you.
Yeah, I will after the meeting.
You got it.
And that's the bill list question. And then I have question to agenda items 3.5 and 3.6.
Go ahead.
Has the off committee see that agreement with the vendor Brown?
Well, you've been in contract with Brown and Brown many years since I've been before here. So that contract was initiated with Brown and Brown before I started. I'm continuing it.
Right.
So it's a renewal.
This is a renewal, yeah.
Yep. So that contract wasn't started by me.
Okay. And on the list here of page 8 of the PDF, there's a lot of numbers here. Are these of the...
Can you give me a little more detail? I don't know what page PDF you're referring to in page
Agenda
8.
item 3.6. The numbers listed there, are those are the staff portion or
Good question. I'll help you out with that. So those amounts that you have for insurance premiums, I decided to put those on the agenda because every district I worked at, I improved the insurance rates. Those are the amounts that the insurance company bills us per month, per category, based on like if you're single or family, before employee contribution. So when the bill comes through the mail, that is what the amount of the bill is to the board based on those respective categories.
So that is the public share plus the staff share part.
That's the invoice per month for that segment for each tier. That's what we're invoiced. It's our obligation to pay for it, less the employee contribution.
Yeah. And are we able to break down by the public share versus the...
I don't board approve the public share. Nobody else does either.
Okay,
Any other questions?
That's all my questions.
Excellent. Email me the questions for the bills list. I'll be
Yes.
happy to answer them if you give me ample time.
So Andrew, I have a small question on the same 1.6.
Okay.
I know you are renewing the contract, what we had for quite a few years right now. So we are just renewing the contract with Brown and Brown. But that contract should be somewhere there if we want to see it, right?
It's essentially not really a contract with Brown and Brown per se because we do not pay Brown and Brown anything. Brown and Brown is our broker. We're renewing a contract with Horizon and all the insurance companies to provide us insurance coverage that was negotiated by the board through all our negotiations for these tiers at these rates. So there is no contract with Brown and Brown because we have no financial obligation to Brown and Brown. We do not pay them.
So how does Brown and Brown make money for doing all this job for us?
They're paid through the insurance company.
So
The Board of Education does not pay the broker.
I see. So they,
If you're in the state health benefit plan, you do not have a broker. If you're in the private plan, you do have a broker that's paid via the insurance company, not the board. There's no public funds that pay the broker.
I see. And that could be a certain percentage of the insurance.
It's not my contract, so it's not under my
So
purview.
that's why there is no actual contract with Brown and Brown.
I do not pay them anything. There's nothing to negotiate. They are paid through the insurance company. I do not know what those terms are. Because it's not our contract. I'm not paying them.
Do we
Or
have...
the board's not paying them, I should say. It's not me personally.
Do we have a legal agreement with them, with Brown and Brown? Not even legal agreement.
So when we have our reorganization meeting, we approve various professionals, that's probably the time of year that Brown and Brown is paid. Just mean if you're looking right now, if you look at our reorganization meeting, most boards approve like a broker, different kind of professionals at that point in time. I believe it was probably approved at reorg. Any other questions?
I actually have a question.
Go ahead.
So this is item 3.1, report of the treasurer. I was just looking at the outstanding checks. There's some that seem to be from a very long time ago.
Yep.
Is that typical? Do we ever cut it off? I imagine the accounting process about that is kind of a headache.
Yeah, so what we do usually, like in June, you're new, so you'll see this, you put on the bills list to cancel out like the outstanding checks, usually like at the end of the year, to kind of clean up your books.
Okay, because some of them were, there's a couple, but one was from January of 2025. So perhaps, like you said, because I haven't done this before, is there a decision sometimes that some are not canceled or routinely normally followed?
Usually
Okay.
like, something's like really, really big, like you try to reach out to the vendor, but usually really, really big checks like get cashed. So usually like in June, like you do a cleanup.
Okay, great, thank you. I just
No, that's a totally good question. So yeah, like we obviously when we do our reconciliations, we like to have less outstanding checks, like not more. It's frustrating. Usually in June, you're gonna see like on the agenda, like here are like your outstanding checks that like you like approved me to cancel out. So that's coming next month. It's a good question.
Thank you.
Sometimes board members' travel reimbursements have been on that list because we forgot to cash them. So,
All sorts of things like that happen. Any other questions?
Brown and Brown was approved at the rework meeting in January.
I thought so. I didn't want to say too. I don't like to say unless I have like the documents in front of me, but I'm pretty certain.
The legal agreement.
Yeah, it's something pretty, it's.
All the professionals, all the key professionals.
It's all,
Yes,
it's like a big
it's an
chunk.
agenda item,
Yeah.
I recall that, but what I'm asking was the legal agreement.
Right. Right. So at your reorganization meeting, the whole purpose of it is to reorganize and approve key professionals. It was approved then. That would have been a better time to ask that question, but like if you need anything further, email me. Okay?
Yeah.
I don't
And
have
you'll
Brown,
get
I don't have any
back-
Brown and Brown documentation with me. We saw that it was approved. Thank you. Okay.
Before we vote, I just want to provide some data that last time I shared about since we joined as broker, our health increased from single digit. Like
So Dr. Wang, do me a favor, save that for the end of the meeting, for the like good of the order, for the board members. That your comments that you're making, your feedback is an opinion, and it's not related to passing the agenda item.
this is discussion.
Dr. Wang,
agenda
please
item.
save that to the end of the meeting. It's not a discussion. You could abstain from voting on like the healthcare for our staff, like if you want to, but it's not pertaining to the information that we're going to vote on. You're giving your opinion on them. Please just say that there's a section for that at the end of the meeting. Please do that.
This is, you open a discussion for agenda item.
This
is
isn't
what we're
this
discussing.
isn't an agenda
What
item.
agenda item?
This
do
is
you want to
agenda
share
item
about?
we want to discuss and approve on is 3.6.
3.6 has nothing to do with the broker. You said that your conversation was about the broker. This is approving the different companies that provide health insurance for our staff. It's not related. Your comment belongs at the end of the agenda for the good of the order for the board. That's where the comment belongs, and you will have your
3.5
chance.
is shift renewal, right?
Yes. 3.5 is shift renewal.
Why we don't have other options on the table for the board to pick?
What other options do you want? Private pay or the state health plan?
Exactly.
We could go to the state plan at 32% if you
I'm so
want.
sorry, but what would you want us to do? Do you want us to change the plan on
It's
the
so
employees
high.
right now in the middle of a meeting and have, like, yes, it's high, everything else is higher.
Yeah.
Have we not heard this over and over
You
and
heard
over
about, we
again?
all heard about that. Then that means we have to look at the historical data. The historical data is this.
Historical data isn't how
Doesn't
health
help us
insurance is
going
billed. It's
forward.
billed by your experience rating. So you can have historical data from 5 years ago that's very cheap, and everybody gets sick, and new drugs come out, and healthcare goes up more. Historical data is not going to help you here. This isn't like the teaching data. This isn't the test scores. This is
It's
very
a
different.
historical
It's done by an
across the board.
experience rating.
Okay, you
That's
guys-
how your health insurance is gauged. Just like your car insurance or your home insurance. It's how many claims you put in. Are you upside down on your claims? Are you making more claims than you pay in? That's how health insurance works.
And you lock it for our school district, for public and the staff.
No, it's not, yeah, don't comment on words, it's not blocked, there's nothing that's blocked. In fact,
not
we have
blocked,
a broker,
locked.
but that's not blocked. Well, it's the not locked either, the broker is going in and finding the best rates for us, and that is what they do.
Would I have to stick with the shift renewal?
Which
Cookie.
has the most amount of options for our employees, which is the best position that we could be in at this.
So I'm going to help out. Ms. Franco Herman's part of OFF. Not to put her on the spot, she has to make comment. The broker.
Thanks a lot.
So I'm just saying, you've heard this information. That's what I'm saying. The broker had provided all of the plans that he markets us out to. His obligation is to get us the best price possible. He gets us the best price possible from the plans that are available to us as a New Jersey public school based on our experience rating, which is half almost of what the state health benefit plan is. So he did his work, he vetted this information out. He's been on the OFF meeting, this is May, probably 3 of the 5 months since January, because this is a big deal. Mr. Finn is doing an excellent job. Nobody's happy with the rates, but he's doing the best that he can in the environment that we're working in.
I think, Dr. Wang, I think your question, if I understand correctly, that if they have seen other options
Yes.
of the brokers, other
Yes.
brokers, if they have seen all that and analyzed the data between two different brokers
Yes.
and then decided to go with Brown and Brown, is that your question? If that is the question,
That's
then
one layer of the question, and the second.
well, I'm just saying that if that is the question, then off committee would be the one who would be talking about all that stuff.
Right. You don't work under multiple brokers. You can't go and say, I want this broker, give me prices, this broker's. You work with one broker.
Yes.
They're calling the same insurance companies. They're sending the experience rating out. So if I'm the broker and they're farming out the experience, it doesn't matter. Miss Valentine was the broker who farmed out the experience. The experience is what drives the price. And Brown has most of the districts in the state of New Jersey.
So does that answer your question? Like, it's not like, they've gone with an experienced broker.
And that's for the shift, right? Or is there any other, because some other school did not go
It's
to
either
shift,
private
go
or
other,
the state.
or individual.
There's three options, private,
Self-insured or state, those
Self-insured.
are your three options. We tried the self-insured route.
I
Our
was-
renewals came
I
back
was
drastically
self-insured.
high. The state plan is drastically high.
Higher.
So we're in the best of the three not so great options.
When you take self-insurance, you have to take insurance for that. Like say if the claims come very high, then there has to be a cap.
We have to pay out no matter what, so if we have self-insurance. So if I budgeted $20 million for self-insurance healthcare, and we pay $20 million worth of claims out the first 6 months of the year, and there's $20 million worth of claims like the second half of the year, I'm obligated to pay those claims, and we would have to fire a lot of teachers to pay those claims. So that's why the broker said, hey, this isn't really a good plan coming out of COVID. Let's go in the private plan. He got us into an exclusive HIF, health insurance fund, based on our good experience rating, because we have a relatively healthy staff, and we have good renewals that are around half of the state health benefit plan. The people that are in the state plan, they would love to be in our plan, but they can't, because they're like the driver with a bad driving history, and they have to have a bad renewal. That's why we're in this plan. It's not great. Jim Finn has over 30 years of experience. He's one of the best in the state. He gets nothing from the Board of Education for us to be in this health plan.
Before we joined this group plan, was our school district self-insurance?
Yes.
And that was like 2% of the increase, and now after we joined them, it's 14%.
We can't verify your data. You weren't on the board at the time. I wasn't at the board at the
This
time.
was-
Jim, hold on, please let me finish. I didn't interrupt you. But Jim Finn was here last month, and he provided the actual data when we transitioned from self-insurance to the private plan. So just look at the tape from last month from Jim Finn. You can get that data.
Go
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask Dr. Wang, like what year are you looking at? Because if it's the COVID year, claims were really low during the COVID year.
Nobody went to the
People
doctor.
were home. Nobody went to the doctors.
Nobody left their
I'm
house.
looking at year 2022 and 2023.
That was
those
just
are the-
when-
Yeah, coming out of COVID. Yeah, of course.
You're looking at the rates that we paid. May I make a comment?
Yes,
Because
yes, ma'am, Ms.
many people here know that I work for the New Jersey Education Association, and I actually work on healthcare as one of the issues that I work on. And healthcare rates everywhere have gone insane. They are rising by double digits. It doesn't matter what the rates were 5 years ago in this district. Every district is going through this right now, or almost every district is going through this right now. There are districts whose rates have gone up even more than ours have. And to look at rates from 5 years ago and say, if we had a different broker or we chose a different kind of health insurance, we might have lower rates is just false. There is no other way to say it. You cannot look at prior rates and compare them to these. That is a ridiculous assumption. It tells me that you don't really understand, no offense, but you really don't understand how the health insurance marketplace works. I will be happy to go have coffee with you and sit and explain it to you in great detail how it works and why it is becoming so expensive. And also, you also have to trust that the OFF committee, they already looked at this, and you have to be willing to accept that they are making a recommendation based on the knowledge that they received. I am not on that committee, but I am assuming that the people on OFF did their due diligence and looked at rates.
disagree with you because the data from all the school districts speak for different things. I think I'm ready to vote. As I mentioned, since we joined that, the increase went to double digit, 14% in school year 2023.
Probably irrelevant, but I also want to add, in the private sector, health insurance rates are going up too. So it's not exclusive to school districts. Everybody is experiencing.
I agree with you that this year that's the case.
OFF had Mr. Finn on the call today for a breakthrough prescription savings potential plan that no one in the state of New Jersey has had. So if you want to talk about spearheading a plan to save money on insurance, we are like in position number 1 of almost 600 districts to try to save money. I'd say we're doing our due diligence looking forward to save money on our healthcare so we could retain as many of our excellent teachers and staff as we possibly can, because that's the only reason that we're trying to do this, is to get the best deal possible for the public and just keep as many of our teachers as possible to not have them be casualties to healthcare.
Are there any other questions on the action
I just
agenda?
have one on, if you have any information on 3.10. You're approving something, employee assistance program. Do you know anything about that, Mary?
Yes.
I was gonna say, I know about it too, but if you want to, go ahead.
I was going to say it's through Penn Medicine, and it's an employee assistance program that we offer to all staff.
It's a confidential support service for staff that basically have personal challenges, and it went up 80 cents per staff member this year. Does that help?
Yeah.
Excellent.
And the 3.9, is that a shared 911.com? Is kind of like a panic button stuff.
Share 911 is an emergency notification platform. It provides two-way communication and notification to us around the building if there's any kind of emergencies, and it also notifies like emergency services.
And could also tell us who's missing. So it'll say lockdown, and then teachers can report like if someone's missing, and everybody gets, so they
It's
know
an excellent
for that
resource.
person. It's a wonderful resource.
All right, so if there's no other questions, then we can start on the vote.
We're going to do a roll call vote for 1.1 to 4.1, and if you have any like notations, Ms. Valentine will take them down. We'll begin with you, Dr. Wen.
Abstain for 3.5 and 3.6.
Yes to everything else?
Yes to everything else.
Noted. Thank you. Ms. Pfeffer?
Yes to everything except on 1.1C, I have to recuse myself from incident number 3305168.
Do me a favor, could you just say the case like one more time for me, a little
Sure.
slower? I'm sorry.
Sorry, incident 3305168. Do you want the rest of the number, or is that enough?
No, that's okay.
Okay.
You don't have it, I have it. Ms. Franco Herman?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Worland?
Yes, but I would like to recuse on 1.1C 305168.
The same one, okay. Noted. Thank you. Ms. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Nunez?
Yes.
Ms. Nargand?
Yes.
Ms. Spina?
Yes?
Thank you. The motion's carried.
Okay, at this time, we have our new business from the public. The Board of Education welcomes and encourages input from the public. Members of the public are allotted one opportunity to bring any new business to the board for up to a maximum of 3 minutes per speaker. All comments must be directed at the board. Before you make your comment, please state your full name and address and enter both on the Chromebook provided. Be mindful of privacy rights regarding students, board employees, and board members. And to avoid any potential liability on the part of the speaker, the board discourages defamatory or discourteous remarks. Public comment portion of the meeting are not structured as question and answer sessions. The board may need to refer an issue to the superintendent if the issue has not been handled through the appropriate chain of command, usually starting at the school level. Responses may be provided at the end of the session. Are there any public comments?
Should I go over here?
Yes, please.
So I start first with a
Good evening, everyone. My name is Joanna Maleka. I'm a parent of a third grader and a sixth grader in our district. I'm also an engineer and a psychologist. Over the past year, I have become increasingly concerned about the amount of screen-based learning in our schools, especially in the lower grades. I want to be very clear. I'm not anti-technology. I understand that digital literacy matters. As an engineer, I see its value. But as a psychologist, I'm concerned about how it may be impacting our children's development, as well as their mental and physical health. In order to better understand how parents in our district feel about this topic, I initiated Screens with Purpose, and with other parents we created an informal parent poll. As of today, we have received nearly 200 responses. The results show that this is not just one parent's concern. About 90% of respondents indicated that they would prefer less screen learning, either across all grades or specifically in the lower grades. This is an informal poll, not a scientific study, but the number of responses and the strength of the feedback show that many families care deeply about this topic and want a broader district conversation. We are asking the district to consider 3 practical steps. First, we asked for clearer age-appropriate guidelines around screen use by grade level, so parents better understand when, why, and how often technology is being used. Second, we asked the district to prioritize paper, books, handwriting, teacher-led instruction, and hands-on learning when technology is not truly necessary. Third, we asked for a working group that includes parents, teachers, administrators, and experts to review classroom technology use and help create thoughtful recommendations. Especially now in a world where artificial intelligence can perform many technological tasks for us, I believe it is even more important to protect the most human skills. Our children need time to develop attention, patience, creativity, problem solving, handwriting, face-to-face communication, and the ability to think deeply without constant digital assistance. These are the skills that cannot be replaced by technology, and they need to be practiced intentionally in school. I hope we can work together as a district to make sure technology is used with purpose, not simply because it's available. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so my name is Caroline. I'm a mom of 4. I'm a medical doctor specialized in dyslexia, ADHD education. I want to begin by saying something very clearly. Like Joanna said, this is not an anti-technology speech. Technology is part of the world, and it can be extraordinary. It can help children with dyslexia, like my son, support accessibility and open incredible opportunities, but tonight I'm here to ask simple questions. Are we still using technology as a tool, or are children slowly being asked to adapt themselves to the tool? Because what science is increasingly showing us is deeply concerning. Today children spend more working hours at school than at home. Parents are constantly told to limit screen exposure, reduce video games, avoid overstimulation, protect sleep, attention, and mental health. We had an amazing workshop from the township a few weeks ago. And yet in school, screens are becoming the default environment for learning. Homeworks are on the computer, long YouTube assignments, educational video games. At VS, with, I don't remember the name of the video game anyway, it's for math. Movies are used as a reward. First grade with my children. Digital platforms replacing paper, and we are introducing all these during the exact years when the brain is still developing its capacity for attention, self-regulation, reading comprehension, and deep thinking. The issue is not whether screens are efficient. They are. Screen capture attention instantly. They can group quickly. They simplify the organization, but efficiency does not automatically mean better learning. More than 60 years ago of cognitive science points in the same direction. Children learn more deeply on paper than on screen. On screens, children process information faster, but more superficially. They skim, they scroll, they scan, but deep learning requires something very different: sustained attention, slower processing, reflection, and memory consolidation. And attention itself is now becoming one of the greatest educational crises in our time. Digital environments train the brain toward constant stimulation, fast rewards, rapid switching, conscious novelty. But a child's brain is not built for endless stimulation, it is built for depth. And when the brain becomes accustomed to constant dopamine-driven engagement, effort itself becomes harder. Reading becomes harder, waiting becomes harder, thinking becomes harder.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comments? Seeing none, public comment portion of today's meeting is closed. Just say something.
Thank you both for coming out. This has been a district topic as part of our strategic plan, and I have been in discussion with Mr. Jeff Brooks, our Director of Technology. He has, with Ms. Borland, the Director of Curriculum Instruction, who spoke earlier today, collected data from the teachers on what's going on, because this is something that we are seriously looking at, and I have your email with your data, and I really appreciate it. And we will be in touch, because I love the idea of having the working group with staff, administrators, and parents. So just stay tuned. Thank you.
Very important topic. Yes. All right, so if there's nothing else, does anyone else have any other comments? If not, then we need a motion to close the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions? Nope. Okay. Meeting's closed.
There you go.